Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks so much for tuning into it. Hope you're well and a fine Bowlsmic Wednesday to you and yours. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything. If you do miss something, we've got you covered because we'll post the show, all of it, on iTunes and in our own audio vault upon the conclusion of the program. That's always a good thing, and we're able to do that thanks to our great podcast sponsor, folks at SVN, Carlton Dean. Resources, the history, the knowledge, the understanding of the market to help you with commercial real estate and income-producing properties. Go to carltondean.com. Email the show if you want. It's jcs at 979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter. It's at J Cameron Show. WTSM app, good for your mobile devices. And, yeah, good to go. There you are. We're on YouTube as well. ESPN Tallahassee on YouTube. I don't know why I was more pumped up for football this morning when I got up than I was yesterday. It's happening more and more these days. Maybe it was Coach Fisher's confidence and sort of revealing answers at the car wash yesterday. We have clips from yesterday's appearance on ESPN, of which he had plenty of. Yeah, by the way, it was correctly predicted for the third year running now that somehow Paul Feinbaum would find a way to not be around and not have Jimbo Fisher on the air for the car wash. Cowardice. But, that said, not everybody's built like a man. Jimbo Fisher is a better interview now than he was many moons ago, and he does these things exceptionally well. Part of the goal, I think, as a head coach, and I always greatly admired this when I saw others, even those that I revile. Urban Meyer, for example, is a guy that's awfully hard to like, is a pretty detestable human being, an extraordinary liar, and a scumbag. That guy, when he would be given the opportunity to use the media the way the media uses sports figures, players, coaches alike, to their advantage, nobody really did it better than him for quite some time. Really good at it. He would turn, when he was at Florida, he turned his successes there in the program into, it was UF all the time on ESPN, right? And it was his access and his willingness to talk with them and the deceptive way in which he, was able to kind of deflect and hide certain qualities that are less desirable. He did a good job with that.
Live broadcast of the spring games. I think, that's the first one I can really remember being on ESPN and promoted on ESPN as though it was a real event, like a real football game.
Yeah, and I thought if I were, a University of Florida fan, that would have really ingratiated him even more to me, along with the winning, and helped me to overlook a lot of the things that I just described, because he made everything a promotion for Florida football and a promo that ESPN more than happily ran time and again. And Jimbo's doing a better and better job of that now, of utilizing his clout, his successes, and Florida State's overall successes, and the prestige of the program to take advantage of these chances and use it as a PR campaign and to advertise the successes and the history of the program. He did a great job of that yesterday. A lot of talk about so many elite players that have come through here and what it means to have that history and what the expectations are of the new bunch. So I thought he was about as good as he's ever been. I talked about it some yesterday on Headlines, but again, after getting it in its entirety and looking back on it, and we were gleaning audio from it today. We're going to play some of that for you this hour. You can really hear the confidence. You can hear, again, the methodical nature in which he answered questions. For him. He's always going to speak rapid fire, but he's slowed it down enough to where I think he's really, really done a much better job of getting his point across.
There's no doubt that the SportsCenter appearance was the crown jewel of the day for Jimbo and the program, too. Typically, that's not the one you want to steal audio from because it's usually canned, very, vanilla questions. But he got in depth in this 8-9 minutes that he talked to SportsCenter. But the lead-in was just one graphic after another, extolling the virtues of Florida State as a program and all the best of Florida State.
Yeah.
And then he, hammers it home with an interview that, objectively speaking, he comes across as a likable guy. And you know how it is. When you see your rival head coach on ESPN, you kind of roll your eyes and you go, ugh. But every once in a while, Urban Meyer will give an interview like that. Or insert old Miami coach here will give an interview and you go, well, he did do well there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that 10-minute period, Florida State owned the ESPN airwaves, and Jimbo used it to his advantage, so much so that, rightfully so, whoever was responsible for contacting ESPN at the Florida State Athletics Department, they got that whole clip and they put it out on their social right away because they're saying, here it is, guys, in one nice, neat little package, everything that's great about us.
Yeah, it was well done. He did a great job. It was fun to listen to. It revealed a little bit of mindset and confidence and where he's at as we get set to get set to go into camp. I think he's really refreshed and rejuvenated. He looks healthier than he's looked in some time, and that means he's rested. So let's go, right? I mean, we're ready now, and I just, for me, it's not a matter of, I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is I haven't always felt that way. So I think it's important to bring up, on this show, we talk about everything from the X's and O's of a game, the execution of a game plan, the successes, the failures, what that means, big picture stuff, the history of the program, what the future looks like. But also we do talk a little bit about our head coach in kind of broad terms about his strengths and weaknesses. And I feel like if you're going to do that, if a guy improves in an area that you've been critical of in the past, and I have, then you should note it. And I really think he's come a long way in this regard. I really do.
Do you have any alarm bells going off because we felt awfully good about preseason talking points last year before we headed into Ole Miss on a Monday night?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I don't know alarm bells. I mean, you still got to execute. Whether you're good in an interview or not isn't going to help you make a stop. So. Right. I mean, it does. What I've learned is to differentiate the two. It's good to see where his headspace is at and what his message is and what the mantra might be. But it's also wise to remember that doesn't necessarily translate into an undefeated season and a national championship. It's that last year, the Ole Miss game loomed, and it's not quite the same game as Alabama, but it's a big game, and so we went out there thinking that Florida State would win that game. And Florida State did win that game. But the way they won that game served to really concern almost all involved, right? It was a show of toughness from the quarterback. It was a nice comeback. It gave you reason to feel good because it looked like for a time it wasn't going to go the way that it did, especially with the defense out of place time and again. But it was also revealing on the negative, and that was that group just didn't know what they were doing. They had no idea what they were doing on defense. And so, I remember it well. And it went on to cost us dearly. Went on to cost us dearly in the Louisville game. It went on to cost us dearly in the North Carolina game. And obviously that was unacceptable. But I'm also not going to assume that that's fixed or that it's not going into this season. I don't know what to expect in that first game from the defense other than I think they'll be a far cry better than we saw against Ole Miss last year. I'd like to believe that winning 7 out of your last 8, playing pretty good defense in the vast majority of those games might be indicative of a better understanding of what we're doing defensively. But I'm also careful to note that we play some offenses in that stretch that weren't as dynamic and didn't feature as many of the run-pass options that gave us fits earlier in the year.
Right, and it's not like Derwin was injured for the Ole Miss game.
No.
He was on the field that entire night, and we still look like confused #a-holes, So that's the thing.
Yeah.
We're banking on the fact that when he says he's learned an awful lot about the concepts of the defense, what the coaching staff is looking for, and he can get us in and out of our checks, we're banking on the fact that that's 100% true as it applies to the field. But, again, we look back at the Ole Miss game, and I think sometimes it gets looped in to our minds that Derwin wasn't available for that game. No, he had a pick in it, but, he was on the field for the entirety of that game, and there were still some wide-open dudes in that first half.
I crack up, you bring up Derwin James, and there were questions yesterday from the headliners, and we've had emails from to the Jeff Cameron Show and Twitter questions for both of us. It's absurd. Stop talking about Derwin James winning the Heisman. A, he's not going to, and he has almost 0% chance of doing so. And secondly, it really isn't warranted. I think he's a spectacular athlete and a freak of nature and potentially a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. but he's had one season of football. He's played one season. He was hurt in the second game last year. When you start including him as amongst the best players in college football, I do think you do a bit of a disservice to those that have played 2 and 3 full seasons and put up huge numbers consistently, whether that be a running back or a quarterback or a receiver, a linebacker who's been prolific. What we're talking about when we talk about Derwin James is that he's potentially one of the best players in the country. And I don't have a problem with that phrasing. I think he is potentially one of the best players in the country. If he's on the field for a full season and being as versatile as he is, he could put up numbers that would make you certainly want to include him in the discussion. But until that time, you're only talking about potential right now.
Well, I think, next to Lamar Jackson, he is the most uniquely gifted player in the country. I think that's what makes him special is, there'll be a quarterback discussion this year from coast to coast. Obviously, you have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner back in Louisville. And on the West Coast, you got Darnold and Rosen. And that's not to speak of any other number of quarterbacks that are going to emerge this year, because that's what happens every season. You get 1 or 2, and you go, whoa, who is this kid? And man, why aren't we talking about him more often?
Sure.
So I think the fact that he's a defensive player can line up in any number of positions, and last year the door was kind of already open with the Jabril Peppers talk and the versatility of Jabril, and Derwin is probably better at all those positions than Jabril Peppers is.
Athletically, I think he is, yes.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of that hype comes from, and yeah, I want to see it too.
But it's just that you see things like his name alongside the words Heisman Trophy. It hasn't happened in 20 years. He's not going to win the Heisman.
Well, and it's such a front runner's award too. So we'd have to go 11-1, 12-0, and not have any offensive superstar stand out at quarterback or running back or receiver. And he'd probably have to have 3 or 4 defensive touchdowns, or he'd have to in the kick return game, which is where we're trying him out. He'd have to score 2 or 3 touchdowns there. I mean,
right.
Touchdowns are so overvalued in that particular award that he'd have to score actual touchdowns, not record interceptions or get sacks. He'd have to score himself in 4 or 5, high-profile moments throughout the season. And I think that would be the hype machine for Derwin James. But like you're saying, the likelihood of that type of scenario building together, man, that's 1 in 1,000.
You go back to Charles Woodson is why it always comes up, right? But you were young. I don't know how much you remember that season in, what was that, 97? I do. And what he did was, this was a guy that he scored touchdowns. He played offense and defense. He can hurt you in the return game. He was a freak of nature. In fact, I just pulled it up just to look because I was trying to find exactly what some of those numbers were. But you're talking about in his career, you're talking about a guy that ends up with a number of catches. He ends up having 200, I think, something carries total in his. They used him in a lot of different ways. Is the point?
Well, and Peppers was used on offense last year too. That should be one big difference between what he did and what Derwin is set to do this year. I don't think they're lining him up on offense,
which would be kind of cool. He is a freak.
What is he, the goal line back? Jacques Patrick would be saying, "My God,
no,
I should have gone somewhere else years ago."
No, I'd want to put him at wide receiver. I'd want to split him out wide. He's tall. He can go get it. He can jump. He's fast, physical. We should think about it, Coach.
So we need Cam Akers thrown to Derwin James is what we need.
Versatility, baby. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
July has been hot and the sale's even hotter. It's the end of the month and I've already hit my number. When have you heard that? So the rest is gravy. Gravy that Kraft Nissan is passing on to you. And I guarantee you'll get huge below invoice, no haggle pricing and save thousands. So listen to this. When you finance through NMAC, all Rogues and Muranos are $4,000 off MSRP. Not one or two, but all. And I've got over 70 to choose from. All Altimas and Maximas are $6,000 off MSRP. I said all, and I've got over 110 to choose from. And all Titans and Armadas in stock are $8,000 off MSRP. Seriously, folks, Kraft Nissan is not playing games here. There is no fast-talking disclosure or very vague, ridiculous payment with see dealer for details. These are real and serious dollars off every model. At Kraft Nissan, we do what we say, period. Plus, all new Kraft Nissans come with our free and exclusive lifetime warranty. And that's why Tallahassee is a Nissan town, a Kraft Nissan town. But you better hurry. These prices end Monday, July 31st.
Out on the golf course, there are the obvious hazards. There's the pond, the bunker, the rough, the even rougher.
Yeah, put me down for an 8.
The giant maples. The row of houses out of bounds on the right. The angry flock of geese who've surrounded your ball. Even the occasional groundskeeper you had no clue was there. But if you think you found every possible hazard out there, think again. The hazard you missed could actually be a killer. It's the spot on your skin, the one that could be skin cancer. Fact is, if you're a man over 50, you're in a group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the kind that kills one person every hour. 1 in 5 Americans is likely to develop a form of skin cancer during their lifetime. That's why your best shot is to check for a spot. It's easy. Follow through and check your skin. It could be the save of a lifetime. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out how. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Get your weekend started right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Saturdays at 6 a.m. with Fishing Florida Radio. Listen to the three amigos, Boudreaux, Steve Chapman, and Captain Mike Ortega as they catch you up to speed on what's new and biting in the North Florida region. Big-time guests, celebrities, interviews, and 3 hours of the fishing info you need. Fishing Florida Radio is brought to you by Sea Quarters Marina off Highway 98 in Carabel. Sea Quarters Marina, your full-service marina. And presented by Hobbit American Grill, locally owned and operated since 1978.
Brent, this month's topic is classic song lyrics. You ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Here's a lyric. American history, practical math. You study them hard and hoping to pass.
It's from School Days by the great Chuck Berry. He wrote and recorded so many great hits.
You mean like TNT Supercenter sells and services so many top golf cart brands with an enormous selection all under one roof?
TNT Supercenter customers can compare the top golf cart brands side by side. Club Car, Yamaha, Star EV, and the ultimate hunting vehicle to beat. TNT Supercenter has the largest selection of carts in the area. Pre-owned carts starting at just $19.99. New carts with a 4-year warranty starting at just $49.99. And at TNT, our service center and service technicians are trained, certified, and authorized for every brand we sell.
And there's plenty of parts and accessories too, right?
Our parts inventory is huge, and we'll dress up your existing cart with a full line of Mad Jack's premium accessory products like seat kits, light kits, lift kits, and now for a limited time, save 20% on all Mad Jack's parts and accessories.
TNT Supercenter, US 19 South, next to Dairy Queen in Thomasville, and online at TNTSupercenter.com.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Jimbo Fisher up in Bristol. Here is a snippet of the conversation he had yesterday. Let's start with preparing for Alabama, what it's like to have the amount of time that Florida State's had in preparation for a game like this against Alabama.
Usually you have 6 days or potentially a few weeks to get ready for a team like this. What's it been like to have 8 months to get ready for a Nick Saban-led team?
Sometimes you got to be careful not to overanalyze and overdo. And you got to remember, that's still a different football team. They're still different guys. And that's one thing that makes openers so unique. You don't know the changes in coaches, players, the new influx of what may be emphasized or what may not be emphasized. Openers are, as great as they are for the fans and everybody else, man, they drive a coach crazy. I mean, it's endless because you end up chasing your tail, as I say sometimes. And you got to worry about, the big thing, worry about yourself. Get yourself right before you can even worry about your opponent. Then we'll game plan the opponent. And we've looked at film, and we have a preliminary plan, and we've looked at things that we know we want to do in camp, and we did in spring, just like they did. I know exactly what they do. So from that standpoint, but more importantly, you got to understand yourself and your team, because teams, no matter what, how many guys you got back, team has a 1-year life expectancy. They change every year, and they each got to develop their own personality and identity, and we're busy doing that with ours.
Well, yeah, and I think it's again he's kind of reiterating some things we talked about and that he's talked about in the past, that coaches really don't change their philosophy all that much, and that coaches aren't going to radically alter what it is they do. Just because you're facing a team the caliber of Alabama. You got to get good at what you do and figure what all that is specifically, cater it to the team's strengths in a given season, whether that's a segment or a player. And of course, we figure that that's what he would do. I wonder what wrinkles you might see specific to Alabama that maybe that you won't see in some of the other games. It'll be interesting to see, does he have a couple of things, just knowing tendencies of what Alabama likes to do defensively. I'm sure there'll be a couple of things in there. But by and large, the focus isn't so much on what Alabama does, but rather what Florida State does and what Florida State needs to do well in order to win the game. I wasn't surprised to hear that answer, is my point. He has said those things before. When we play people out of conference that you're not accustomed to playing, especially if they run a unique system, I've asked him that question. He says, well, obviously we study it. We have a game plan for it. Obviously we look at the opponent, but it's really about us trying to execute at a very high level what we do, and everything else will take care of itself if we do that.
Yeah, I think if you're Nick Saban, if you want to put that hat on for a second and say, how do I prepare for Jimbo Fisher, you take a look back at any number of games, but you might even want to look back at the one we talked about last week, which is their first matchup, Alabama-Florida State. One's the head coach in his first year, and the other is first-year offensive coordinator at Florida State. Neither has built their program the way they want it built, so they're doing the best with what they have. But, I mean, if Jimbo feels like something gives him a chance, like lining up Preston Parker as the quarterback in a set, or turning Xavier Lee loose, and, if that means that Cam Akers or, Francois run kind of odd sets, odd offensive concepts in week one because he wants to add a wrinkle, you have to be aware of that. You have to be prepared for that. If you look at the Christian Ponder offense or the E.J. Manuel offense or the Winston offense, the Golson offense, and on through to last year's Francois offense, you have to be prepared for an awful lot, and that's the thing. We always talk about, what does Jimbo Fisher need to do to prepare for defense X, or what does Charles Kelly, Jeremy Pruitt, or Mark Stoops have to do to prepare for the offensive opponent. But, if you're a defensive mind, a defensive head coach or coordinator prepared for Jimbo Fisher, you do have to consider an awful lot of different things.
It's one of my favorite aspects of what he does and what he does well is the ability to incorporate a lot of different concepts. He may have a core set of 15 to 20 plays that he likes to run, and there are variations off those plays. But he's capable any given week, because he prides himself on that, of incorporating other aspects of offenses that you see maybe where an emphasis is on some things we don't do he on a regular basis. He's done it before, and we lose sight of that sometimes. I think that the talking point is always pro style, which is great because it certainly helps quarterbacks at the next level, helps them get drafted. It's a great recruiting tool, and certainly that is true. But he has not been afraid to adjust and kind of call away from weakness, right? I mean, the Ponder stuff was out of necessity. I remember one time we were having I'll give you a good example. I won't say the year, but we were really struggling to block it up. No, go figure. We were really struggling to block it up, and we had several games in a row where the pressure on the quarterback was untenable. It's not what you can have. And I was talking to Jimbo on a Sunday before our scheduled interview. And he came on, and I could tell he was kind of in a talkative mood. And in order to gain sort of context, I sometimes ask him certain questions that will relate to questions that I'm going to ask him on the record. And I obviously I wasn't dancing around it a little bit here. I asked him specifically about our inability to protect the quarterback. And he was clearly frustrated. He had just got done watching the film. I think he had just sat down with Tom Block as well to do the TV show. And it was on his mind when he began to answer the question. And he said, and I don't think I'm talking out of school here or else I wouldn't bring up the story. He said, well, I'm getting real close to just going 5 wide, spreading these guys out, and getting the ball out of my quarterback's hand in a hurry. We'll throw the ball 60 times. And it was interesting because I thought, well, you can't protect the quarterback, and your answer is going to be spread it out. We're just going to throw it around. We're just going to get, and in many ways that would protect the quarterback because he's talking about short throws. He's talking about bubbles. He's talking about quick slants. He's talking about those kinds of throws and let guys try to make plays after the catch and use their elusiveness, that kind of thing. But also, you realize that when you can't line up and push people off the ball, you can't get the run game going, then you're behind the chains. And then from a traditional standpoint, guys pin their ears and they come at you 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8, that kind of thing. So what he was talking about is give your quarterback the best chance, throw on 1st down, set up 2nd and 6, and keep chucking it around the lot, safe passes, and just spreading things out. He was willing to confess in that moment that maybe that's what they're going to have to do. And it just speaks to the versatility within the offense that we're talking about.
Yeah, I remember when Golson transferred, and actually you got the interview right away when he was on his way to a Tampa event. I think he was speaking to a booster club. But I remember I was doing something for War Chant at the time, and it was preseason look at what the offense might look like under Golson.
Yeah,
And I found examples under Ponder and Manuel and what Jimbo was able to call and what he devised when he had different skill sets. And I forget how many different wrinkles there are, even thinking about it as you're talking. Remember the play where we get called for a false start because we don't get the snap off in time. And this is the national title. This is on the game-winning touchdown drive, and Jameis is flipping out on Stork because he doesn't snap the ball.
Right.
That looks like it's going to be a designed quarterback run that he calls in that situation. Looks like it's sweep to the right. I mean, everything is always on Jimbo's mind at every given moment. If you're preparing for him, you've got to think about them moving the pocket. We'll roll the pocket out and use a running back as somebody who's blocking on the edge. We'll break out the option with Christian Ponder.
Pony.
We'll use the pony.
I love it, yeah.
He called, again, this one failed miserably, but we used the Wildcat when we went up to Clemson.
Yeah, never do that again.
I agree.
Let's not do that.
But the offense we used when Manuel had to replace.
Although, if you're going to do it, sure. This year might be the year with Cam Akers who can actually throw it, so you have to respect it.
Yeah, we have gone 5 wide. We have run mostly out of the shotgun. We run pistol. We run under center.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a running back stable like back in 2010 where we had 3 different guys comprise an attack that went for 1,500 yards. Then he featured Chris Thompson in 2011 until he was hurt. Then we had Dalvin Cook in a year where we feature a player. Or 14, we had Carlos and Pender, then Dalvin until Dalvin emerged. I mean, he does everything. He's done a little bit of everything in his time here for the last 6-7 years as head coach, especially when he has his own horses. It doesn't matter. He'll play to his strengths, and I think that's got to be really tough if you're Jeremy Pruitt.
Well, it's also why the offense is consistently well-regarded, and you just look at it statistically speaking. And again, we're talking right now about some of the strengths, some of the things that make Florida State difficult to prepare for. People certainly have had their successes against Florida State as well. It's not perfect, but I do think that he is of the mindset that, hey, I don't have to do it a certain way. And so when we talk about wrinkles, it may not be so much about adding something new. It's just deferring to other aspects of the playbook that he hasn't always utilized in a given year because that's not what his makeup was for the team. That wasn't the strength for the team that given year. So, yeah, it's all within that offensive concept. And that versatility, he will remind you. I've asked certain questions before that hit him wrong and maybe imply a certain limitation to what he runs, and he'll be quick to correct you, and he'll be quick to correct you with specific examples as to what he's talking about.
Okay, and a couple of moments of need in the past. You go way back. Remember the game where E.J. Manuel's hurt on the sidelines, Boston College, and Ponder throws a couple of pick sixes in that game. We call a double reverse to go get that game, to go win that football game.
It's the Burt Reed play, right?
It's the Burt Reed play. It was supposed to be to Easterling, and Reed switched positions with Taiwan before the snap. Then there was the first play against Miami with Golson at quarterback. You know, we use the actual traditional option, and there's the pitch, and it's out the gate. There's more.
I don't know how he stayed in bounds there, though. That was actually, you got to give so much credit. I don't give Everett a lot of credit for much because he really kind of sucked. But, man, that he wears it there and had to know he was going to. And I'm sure it was said all week in practice, you're going to get hit here. I mean, like, this is going to happen. But if you do it the way we're drawing this up, it's going to be a touchdown. That is, when you watch that play, Dalvin's balance on the sideline, that's crazy that he stayed in bounds.
He calls a crazy forward pitch to Kelvin Benjamin in 2012 against Clemson. That's the successful one.
Yeah, wrong personnel there.
Wrong guy to do it, but it was a huge play. It made a big difference.
Yeah.
Jacques Patrick threw a pass last year.
And it was a laser.
Yeah. So,
it was a laser.
I mean, you know, to kind of brand him as a pro-style stubborn guy who's not willing to wrinkle things, I think is unfair.
I think the only thing we're talking about there, and the only real complaint that may have some legitimacy here, is that I do believe he needs to run his quarterback more while the rules are the way that they are. And it could just be that last year he realized he didn't really have an option. If that kid gets hurt, and he's not a big kid, they don't have anything behind him. And he knows that. And he does have Dalvin Cook. So he's saying, look, man, if I'm going to run the ball, I'm going to run the ball with that guy who's a freak. And, you know, I'll pick and choose on the quarterback runs to where I really got to have it. Element of surprise is in my favor here because we don't do it as much as other teams. And I'm going to make sure that if I'm a risk-reward. But I would like to see, and maybe it happens as he gets more comfortable with the depth chart, you know, as Bailey Hockman shows that maybe he can handle things a little bit more if Fields commits to Florida State. You know, when they get caught back up, they're really hurt by the fact that DeAndre Johnson punched a woman at a bar, got kicked off the team. They're hurt that Malik Henry, whatever his problem was off the field that led to him not being able to be here anymore, you know, they lose those two guys. A, you don't have competition, which sucks, and we don't know. Maybe one of those guys could have been a better option, not taking anything away from DeAndre Francois. But B, it puts you in a precarious position because now you really just can't have this guy go down. I mean, your season's lost. Now, a lot of people would say that, right? A lot of people would say, well, if your starting quarterback goes down and you're an elite team and you have your eyes on playing in the playoff or winning a national title, your season's probably over if you go to the backup. Not every situation's that way. I mean, you can recruit to the level where a second-string quarterback doesn't see the kind of drop-off, and it's significant here, that we do currently. But that is not necessarily his fault. It's just that those situations played out the way that they did, where a kid made a terrible decision and another kid lacked maturity or whatever his problem was. So they're, you know, as much as I want him to run the quarterback, and I think he needs to, and I think maybe that would be there, he's a little handcuffed because of the depth chart, where he might say, I just can't put him in that position.
I think there's a game you're going to do it for. It's at the end of the month against NC State, because then you follow up with Duke by Wake Forest, you know, versus, if you do that against Alabama, then you got Miami in 2 weeks, then you got NC State. I mean, damn.
I think it's important to do it against Alabama, though. I really do, but I understand why you would be reluctant.
I think we both agree, though, he will. It's just the frequency with which he calls that play. He's going to against Alabama, but is he going to do it twice? Is he going to do it 7 times, you know?
The Bama table's no joke. Those dudes are rolling up there with something, a little what for on the end of that play. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot of by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Organized. How do I get him to be more responsible with his academics? I've tried everything.
Hi, I'm Lance Davis. Let Engaged Academics help your child learn how to work through these common issues. Visit engagedacademics.org for more information. That's engagedacademics.org.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices, like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J. Farrar, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes, and select items like $7.99 St. John's Bay polos and shorts for $9.99. Plus, this is the only time of the year you can stack on your coupon and save an extra $10 on top of Black Friday prices. Hurry, and Saturday. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 7/26 to 7/29 on select items in store and at jcp.com. Some exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
The Home Depot has a new idea. Free carpet installation that means free carpet installation. Clearing out furniture? Free. Ripping out old carpet? No charge. Hauling it away? On the house. No hidden fees, just free installation on carpet $699 or more. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Valid on carpet priced $1 or more per square foot. Unique specialty items and requirements may be priced separately. Not valid in all markets. See HomeDepot.com for details. Offer ends August 16th.
This Day in Sports, brought to you by Superlube, 19 Tallahassee area locations. Quick, convenient, no appointment necessary. Get your history lesson weekdays at 5:30 during the Jeff Cameron Show, right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Need a place to watch your favorite sporting event? Hobbit American Grill, voted best wings in Tallahassee by Tally Awards 3 years in a row. Thirsty? They have the Lucky Sevens. $7 domestic pitchers after 7 p.m., 7 days a week, $7.95. Daily specials. Locally owned and operated since 1978. Hobbit American Grill keeps it local with a wide variety of locally crafted beers plus a full bar. Hobbit American Grill. 3 locations to choose from. 400 Capitol Circle Southeast, 2020 West Pensacola Street, and 5032 Capitol Circle Southwest. Visit them online at myhobbitonline.com.
If you haven't stopped into Tallahassee's favorite hangout, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill on North Monroe Street, you're missing out.
Hey, it's me, Courtney. Hey, it's me, Marissa. Last but not least, I'm Kim, and we're the girls from the Fourth Quarter.
Okay, girls, there are lots of great nights to stop in at the Fourth Quarter, including Monday, where it's happy hour all day, including 2-for-1 Wells. There's Tuesday night trivia with Professor Jimmy, where you can win money. What other night should we stop by the Fourth Quarter?
It's Kim again. Join me Saturday and Sunday mornings for Bubbles and Brunch from 7 to 2. $18.99, all you can drink mimosas and Bloody Marys, and it includes breakfast.
Hey, Riss here. Come join me for lunch. We have over 20 lunch specials for just $7.50, and that includes a drink.
I'm Courtney. Visit me on Monday nights when we have 2-for-1 Wells, calls, and domestic drafts all night.
Don't miss out on the girls of the Fourth Quarter. Pick your favorite night and stop in. Say hi to the girls at 2033 North Monroe Street, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill, Tallahassee's favorite hangout.
School bells are ringing. The band's back together. Save big at Goodies and make this the best year ever. Score the best deals of summer with the Goodies Back to School sale. Like buy one, get one 50% off shoes for the family, 50% off Carters for kids, and 40% off the newest trends in denim. Plus, take 30 to 40% off new backpack styles from mini to metallic. The Back to School sale starts Wednesday. Goodies. What will new bring out in you? Goodies is part of our Sage family. Offer exclusions apply.
O'Reilly. Defend your vehicle from harmful elements and restore shine with Armor All Original Protectant. For a limited time, O'Reilly Auto Parts has a great deal on a 16-ounce bottle of Armor All Protectant for $4.99. Renew, revitalize, and protect your vehicle with Armor All Protectant. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
If you weren't the owner of Gordo's and all those wonderful restaurants, Eddie, what would you be doing?
You know, I think I'd want to be I don't know what I'd want to be, a boat captain or a cowboy.
Do you know how to use a lasso?
No.
You'd have to do that if you were a cowboy.
Yeah, but I've never even been on a horse. It's not my place to be on a horse.
I agree. And the horse thanks you. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You knew Nick Saban would be asked about Jimbo Fisher's comments regarding the ACC being the best conference in college football. He answered those questions. Of course, Jimbo's quote was, "We've established ourselves, I think, as the premier conference in all of college football." He went on to point the facts of his argument. The ACC has won 2 of the last 4 national championships, played for 3 of them, and is 8-3 in college football playoff games. Went on to talk about other ACC successes while making that point, and Nick Saban was asked about that very topic. He said about that on First Take, I hate to have to give credit where credit's due, but he was there, so I'll mention it. A lot of good conferences, a lot of good teams. I think to make those evaluations, I don't look at every team. I look at the teams that we play. I'm concerned about the team from the ACC, which is Florida State. The last team we played against a very good team from the ACC, and it was Clemson. We have a lot of good teams in the Southeastern Conference. I think the SEC stands for itself in terms of what it has been able to accomplish the last 10 years, but I'm not here to evaluate that. He was then reminded that his team has beaten SEC opponents 17 straight times by an average margin of more than 20 points per game. And he was also prodded by a friend of the Jeff Cameron Show, Bomani Jones, who said that he was hoping he would make fun of the ACC, and basically Nick Saban said, "I'm not going to. That's not what I'm here to do. I respect the players in that league. I respect the coaches in that league. I respect what they've accomplished. I respect the fact that they beat us in last year's national championship game." He's gotten so good over the years. You can't get him. You really can't get him unless he wants to make a point about something. You're just not going to get him.
Yeah, but if Jimbo is making a point about the SEC and, Saban, Alabama, and Saban's doing the same in return, it's because the two of them got on the phone, talked about it, and devised it. They're friends. That's the other thing here is I don't know how much they're communicating before this game.
Yeah, and I don't know how much they would talk about the plan of attack at the car wash in Bristol. I mean, I get what you're saying. They probably have a good idea how each other feels about any number of things, whether that be football, politics, or food, but because they are friends. But I don't know that – I mean, they all understand they have their talking points. Every coach goes into this with their talking points. Clearly, the ACC at the ACC kickoff was going to trumpet its successes, as it should, because the SEC has over the years. And when you finally have, at least for a season, really 2 seasons or a season and a half, the advantages that the ACC has had lately in those matchups with significant victories, including the Heisman and the national title and all that stuff, then you do need to market yourself in that way. And all of the premier coaches, those that would be carrying the flag of the ACC for SWAFI, did their part. Nick is above and beyond that as the preeminent and best coach in college football. Doesn't have to worry about what anybody thinks about his league. Doesn't have to worry about what they think of his program, even, because the successes are the successes. He went on to say, look, I don't really care. The idea that you're recruiting against Florida State, that is it a big deal that the ACC has made the strides that it has because you have to win recruiting battles, and if it's perceived even for a second that the ACC has surpassed the SEC or a program like Florida State or Clemson is on par with, it can be more difficult for you. And he said, well, it's not really where they're from that's ever concerned me. It's a good game for our fans to play. It's in a location where we recruit, and it's going to bring exposure to the program, talking about being in Atlanta. But I don't worry about where teams are from, just the successes we've had. That, he's not going to fall for it.
No, again, just from the breakout interviews when Jimbo was asked to say, Alabama's built like an ACC team, tit for tat type of thing. David Hale, among others, were asking him, and he says, man, that's not what Nick meant. And you know that. You know what I mean? Like Jimbo could have decided to run with it.
A lot of people in the ACC thought it was insulting because what they would point out is that most of the other all of the other teams not named Alabama in the SEC wishes they were Florida State in terms of how how well they recruit, their successes, etc. Now, that's not necessarily true either. I think they mean over the last couple of years anyhow, or the last 5 years. But, yes, to say, oh, they're like an SEC team is to disregard the ACC, and that's what people took umbrage with. But Jimbo, of course, knew that that's not what Nick Saban really meant. Moreover, of course, Jimbo has great reverence for the SEC. I'm not saying that he bows down to it. He certainly doesn't, because he's very proud of what this league has become. But he coached in that league more than once, and he has great respect for the venues, for the passion, and for the history of the SEC.
Yeah, I guess my point is if you're trying to create some sort of controversy, which is clearly what these questions are aimed at, between Fisher and Saban, you don't get it. You know what I mean? And that's where the national media doesn't understand. No. These guys are cut from the same cloth here. They're friends.
Both from West Virginia. Both grew up tough childhoods in terms of what was expected of them by their fathers. Both football savants. Yeah.
And they both know enough about the game that, at one point the SEC was not the king. And perhaps it built its programs kind of like, 2 programs in the state of Florida were built at that time. Maybe Florida State, Miami a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what how the SEC started to build its programs, and then the emergence of Florida in the shadow of Florida State and Miami decided to get into the act, and it decided to compete with the 2 juggernauts in the state from the 80s. Yeah.
Long time ago, Bear Bryant, most famous of all the coaches from Alabama, once said that Florida was a sleeping giant. That if they ever figured it out, everybody would be screwed.
And Bear Bryant from the SEC was a grandfather type to many other coaches who, you know what I mean? Like, it goes in cycles. So Nick and Jimbo know plenty about the game and the history of college football. The service academies, hell, or, we're the class of the sport
at one
for a
time,
long
Minnesota was a juggernaut in all of college football, yes.
Right. I mean, Georgia Tech ran a regular offense compared to the one they're running right now, and that was 40, 50 years ago. You know what I mean? So They know this thing goes in cycles. To label something as in the SEC model or ACC model is just so woefully misguided and short-sighted.
Saban said about the opener, it is every bit the challenge that you think it is. I think it does things that affect your offseason. I think the players are more focused. They work a little bit harder. They prepare a little bit better. They understand the challenge of the first game, and they're not really looking past it. It's because it's a huge challenge for them and for us. Jimbo said that exact same thing. I asked him, we've played that audio before. I asked him about, do you like games like this? I know I said to him at the time, you're supposed to say yes because we're trying to sell it, and it doesn't need selling. It's sold out. It's done well. And he answered honestly. He said sometimes, not all the time. It's not always good for you. But I think sometimes it is good for you. It does provide for an offseason of focus, unlike many other games. Obviously, if you look at a season in which you open against, no offense to a Charleston Southern or somebody like that, they're not quite going to get your kids' attention.
No, it wasn't good for USC last year, The
certainly wasn't, because they didn't have a handle on their quarterback situation, and obviously they would have loved to have played that game at the end of the year where they might have been at the very least competitive. Certainly probably would have been, given what emerged at their quarterback position, but they didn't have that guy to start the year. They weren't sure of that guy, and that team got clobbered.
I think what would be fascinating for fall camp, as we pay attention a lot to what Alabama has to say, and it's not like there aren't any number of outlets that you can go to look at Alabama day-to-day coverage. They have about 80 of them, but does Nick Saban continue the rhetoric of the team that we're playing to start the season is elite? Remember, he said that all the way back in spring, and he's echoed those sentiments, kind of deflecting the pressure of the game. Even though Vegas might say otherwise, Nick Saban wants you to believe that it's Florida State that should be winning this game, that Alabama has to live up to the elite
he
status
can try to
of
do
Florida
that.
State.
Nobody thinks that that's true. Nobody. He's going to keep doing it, I guess. I don't know really the reason for that. They play in the biggest games every year. Alabama just got done playing for a national title. They've done so in back-to-back years. They won one, they lost one. They play in huge games like this to start every season. USC, you just mentioned it a year ago. Alabama, when you have 7 straight number 1 recruiting classes, is always going to be the favorite in a game like this, as well they should be. He knows that. I don't know what the reason for that is. Maybe he's trying to alleviate some of the pressure that comes with being the prohibitive favorite every year, perhaps. It might do his team good to feel like an underdog or somehow find some form of disrespect. I don't know. That's not normally his cup of tea. I think he legitimately respects Coach Fisher. I think he legitimately respects Florida State's program. I think he certainly, just looking at recruiting, knows they've got the horses to compete, and he just lost to Clemson, so certainly he knows that. Given what Clemson Florida State was just a year ago here, I mean, yeah, he sees it as a great challenge, perhaps greater than the challenges they faced when they played in these sort of preseason kickoff games against Southern Cal or West Virginia or Virginia Tech, right?
Yeah. I'd wonder, though, from their perspective, and it would be interesting to get an honest answer, even though I don't know that you can. You know, the fans and the media, they look at this game and they're going to hype it as though it's a national title game. Secondary market sales for tickets, you know, dictate that this is one of the most expensive games, playoff or not, in the last however long, if not ever. And then ESPN's going to have promos for this. You know, they already do. Well, if you're Saban or you're Fisher, it's a non-conference game. It's a great test to start the season, but then you've got a whole conference schedule ahead of you. And the SEC, you know, you can argue about hierarchy, but it's a great test, and it's gonna make you ready for the playoff. ACC the same way. How do they view it in terms of importance? Is there extra importance? They probably just view it as another game. What I'm getting at is, you know, Saban plays LSU and Auburn, and they have their own Tennessee. They have their own yearly rivalries. And for Fisher, it's Florida, Miami, Clemson.
Sure.
How is this game really viewed in terms of
I just
vital
think
to
it's
the
a
season?
game. Yeah, sometimes it's revealed. You'll see coaches do this too. Jimbo does it. They're big fans of the sport. They're big fans of college football. So it's not lost on them why this game carries, a sex appeal. I mean, it's a game that college football fans, you can absolutely hate Florida State. You can absolutely hate Alabama. And within the sound of my voice, there are plenty of people nodding their head right now going, I hate both those sons of bitches. You're going to watch because that's big-time college football. That's as good as it gets. There are other matchups that you might deem equal, that you might find to be just as exhilarating and fun to watch, and maybe even between two combatants that you actually like. But the point is, we're all huge fans of college football, and so are the coaches. Now, they got things to worry about, and they're paid handsomely to make sure their teams are ready to play in games like this. But it's not lost on them how cool this game is. But you're right. Do they view it as a more important game than some of the others that are within the conference? God, no. Certainly they don't. They know it's imperative that they win their conference. If you win a conference like the ACC, wasn't always the case, and that's why it's important that the ACC improve as it has. But if you win the SEC or you win the ACC, you're going to play in the college football playoff most years. There'll be some exceptions, but most years you're going to make the Final Four. And winning this game or losing this game is not going to dictate that, right? Now, you'll leave yourself with maybe not as much margin for error once the rest of the campaign kicks off after a game like this. But no, it's not a conference game, so they don't view it as nearly as important as Florida State Miami or Florida State Clemson and as Alabama Auburn or Alabama LSU or Alabama Tennessee.
You know, what's kind of funny is you say that, and it is absolute fact. Most years, if you win the ACC, you're going to be playing, you know, in the college football playoff. And it's not just because it's musical chairs. You have 5 power conferences and there's 4 seats. Like, no, you are assured.
Well, now that it's a good conference, it wasn't to the point in 2014.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how far we've come that's a matter-of-fact statement, whereas in 2014, where we're in the midst of winning 29 straight games, and there's a legitimate
we're the reigning
fear.
national champions, moreover.
Yes, that beat the SEC, and
Yes.
there was a legitimate fear that we might not have been impressive enough for the committee to be left out of the top 4.
Well, and admittedly, I never feared that they would be left out of the top 4, but I was stunned when I found out where we were. Yes, but I was also elated because it meant we were going to California, which is exactly where I wanted to go, as opposed to, what was it, New Orleans? Or
isn't that back in the fold this year? Isn't California back in play as a semifinal?
Is that right?
I think it is.
All righty. California, here we come, baby. You got to break out the Dre and Pac. Yeah. Oh, you got me giddy. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
License number CCC 049350.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. July has been hot and the sale's even hotter. It's the end of the month and I've already hit my number. When have you heard that? So the rest is gravy. Gravy that Kraft Nissan is passing on to you. And I guarantee you, you'll get huge below invoice, no haggle pricing and save thousands. So listen to this. When you finance through NMAC, all Rogues and Muranos are $4,000 off MSRP. Not one or two, but all. And I've got over 70 to choose from. All Altimas and Maximas are $6,000 off MSRP. I said all, and I've got over 110 to choose from. And all Titans and Armadas in stock are $8,000 off MSRP. Seriously, folks, Kraft Nissan is not playing games here. There is no fast-talking disclosure or very vague, ridiculous payment with see dealer for details. These are real and serious dollars off every model. At Kraft Nissan, we do what we say, period. Plus, all new Kraft Nissans come with our free and exclusive lifetime warranty. And that's why Tallahassee is a Nissan town, a Kraft Nissan town. But you better hurry. These prices end Monday, July 31st.
If you haven't stopped into Tallahassee's favorite hangout, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill on North Monroe Street, you're missing out.
Hey, it's me, Courtney.
Hey, it's me, Marissa.
Last but not least, I'm Kim, and we're the girls from the Fourth Quarter.
Okay, girls, there are lots of great nights to stop in at the Fourth Quarter, including Monday, where it's happy hour all day, including 2-for-1 Wells. There's Tuesday night trivia with Professor Jimmy, where you can win money. What other night should we stop by the Fourth Quarter?
It's Kim again. Join me Saturday and Sunday mornings for Bubbles and Brunch from 7 to 2. $18.99, all you can drink mimosas and Bloody Marys, and it includes breakfast.
Hey, Riss here. Come join me for lunch. We have over 20 lunch specials for just $7.50, and that includes a drink.
I'm Courtney. Visit me on Monday nights when we have 2-for-1 Wells, calls, and domestic drafts all night.
Don't miss out on the girls of the Fourth Quarter. Pick your favorite night and stop in. Say hi to the girls at 2033 North Monroe Street, the Fourth Quarter Bar and Grill, Tallahassee's favorite hangout.
Yeah, that was a good ending. What's another great ending to a movie?
Jaws. Smile, you son of a...
No. That's Jaws 2.
No, that's Jaws 1, man.
No. He shoots the thing, and it's Jaws 2, isn't it?
No. Jaws 2, he hits him with the electrical wire.
Oh, you're right. The electrical thing, he's holding it up, right? He's on the little raft.
He's on the raft.
You're right.
Zzz, and then that's it for Brody. He dies after that.
He doesn't die.
In Jaws 3, he's dead. He
had a heart attack or something.
Yeah,
we don't see it on screen.
They don't show it on screen, but yeah, the Jaws killed him.
That's okay. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Are you wanting to raise some extra cash fast? Think Thrifty Nickel. Need to clean out that garage full of stuff you never use? Think Thrifty Nickel. Need a newer car or truck and don't want to break the bank? Think Thrifty Nickel. Buying or selling, your best bet is Thrifty Nickel. All ads appear in print and online for maximum results. Place your ad today and ask for their guaranteed results special. Call 385-0505. Get your free copy of American Classifieds, available at hundreds of locations throughout the greater Tallahassee area.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
With what you need to know, this is Adrian Lawrence. Some deals are getting done on the gridiron. The NFL Network reports that the Vikings signed defensive end Everson Griffin to a 4-year extension. Only 4 players have more sacks than Griffin since the start of the 2014 season. To the AFC North, hoping to improve their depth at running back, the Ravens re-signed Bobby Rainey today. That's what ESPN's Adam Schefter reports. Rainey helps fill in during the absence of Kenneth Dixon, who just had surgery on a torn meniscus and is 50-50 on returning this season. To Carolina, no deal quite yet for Panthers linebacker Thomas Davis, who said negotiations for an extension are ongoing. Also in the NFC South, Falcons tackle Don Terry Poe's second incentive weigh-in is today. If he's 330 pounds or less, Poe will pocket $125,000. The Falcons will pay him up to $500,000 in bonuses if he can meet the 4 weigh-ins. And in tennis, the world's number 4 men's player, Novak Djokovic, well, he's going to miss the rest of the season due to an injured right elbow. That means the Joker's pulling out of the U.S. Open, ending his 51 Grand Slam tournament streak.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices, like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. This finds you doing well. Fine Ballsmick Wednesday to you and yours. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. If you are to miss any portion of the program, you can find it both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. We'll post it upon the conclusion of the program, and it's all brought to you with limited commercial interruption thanks to our great podcast sponsor, CarltonDean.com. Carlton and the fine folks at SVN with the ability to help you with off-market deals, too. Go to CarltonDean.com. You can email the show if you want. It's JCS at 979ESPNradio.com. Find me on Twitter at JCameronShow, WTSM app for your mobile devices. We're on YouTube as well. Thanks for watching on YouTube, ESPN Tallahassee. Go there. You'll find it, and you can watch it. I was looking at a friend of the program and Twitter phenomena, CB. He posted, I printed this out, CB, if you're watching or listening. I'm sure it'll get back to you. He put together a fine little week-by-week look at the college football season and the more notable games. And I happened to be scrolling across the timeline as that came down, and I thought, well, thank you very much. I'll print that sucker out, and we have things to look at that make us excited. It's like being 13 and seeing a Playboy. Look at this gloriousness here.
I would have settled for a Stuff magazine at that point.
I forgot about Stuff magazine.
Yeah, Stuff. Remember that?
Yeah. Is Maxim still around?
Yeah, they were in the same class.
Is that still there?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Magazines still kind of exist?
I think they do, yeah, because they're, a couple weeks at a time, maybe monthly.
I recently somehow found the secret formula to getting back to the magazine companies that make it very difficult for you to cancel your subscription to something and then yearly renew. I made the mistake ages ago. I was at, I think I was at Books A Million or someplace like that, and I bought something. I bought a book for my son. And in doing so, they go, "Oh, Mr. Cameron, we see you're a member of the Books A Million Yay Club," or whatever the hell they call it, and where you get discounts. And I
Do they really call it the Yay Club?
No, of course
That'd be
not.
fantastic.
No, it's the Books A Million something. But anyhow, I couldn't remember the name, so I just said Yay Club. And so the lady there, she gives you the pitch on you're eligible to get 3 free subscriptions to any one of these magazines. You pick from the list we got there. And this was years ago, so I went, okay. I'll do Time and Newsweek and Esquire. There we go. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three I want.
Those are the three you picked.
Those are the three I picked. And anyhow, I'm all in on those. That's what we'll do.
Hustler and
they don't have those on the list. That'd be something. So, and my wife would be like, "Why are we getting Hustler to the house? Don't you think that's a bit of an inappropriate? Just hand it to me. I don't question your magazine selection." So, as it were,
Better Homes and Gardens.
So I got those magazines, and then I found I just didn't want them anymore. I liked Esquire, but I was done with the others. They just come too frequently, and then next thing you know, I just got too many Times and Newsweeks laying around. And my wife's always like, "Hey, will you recycle these?" So I got tired of them, and like a couple of years had gone by, and I was being charged. That first year they're free, and after that, then it's crazy. So I tried to cancel. They're like, "Oh, you can't do that. You have to have a written letter, and you have to do this, this, and this, and you have to send it here, and then maybe they'll allow you to cancel. Otherwise, you're just going to keep." Yeah, it's crazy. The process you have to go through to cancel these subscriptions, it's jumping through hoops. It's nuts, but I figured it out. And I canceled all those bastards, and it was a glorious feeling. I sat there on the phone with the lady. Nope, cancel that one too.
Whatever came of the cracked and broken Tervis tumbler? Has it been replaced yet?
No. She, I was found out. She saw it. She was disappointed that I hadn't recycled it. She said, "You just put it in the regular garbage trying to trick me, and you got caught doing that. And I'm less upset about the fact that you dropped the Tervis tumbler and broke it than I am about the fact that you didn't even put it in with the plastic to be recycled. What are you doing? That's a big old Tervis tumbler." Yeah.
Hashtag marriage. Holy cow. It's about the recycling over the fact that
that one was. And she did say, "Would you stop just running in here breaking stuff all the time? Like, you break everything." I said, "Well, they're not made well. These things have to be tougher. I mean, when you get in there, you're doing some cooking. You don't have time for things that are flimsy. I throw around my pots and pans. I get after it. Just you're banging into each other.
Need to be made like a Spalding ball or barbells.
You gotta, yeah. So anyhow, hey, so back to this thing here. I'm looking at the schedule, and it's just beautiful. So obviously, week 1, Florida State, Alabama, but also that same week, Florida, Michigan, LSU, BYU. I suppose you want to talk about Tint of Suspicion Bowl 2. Here it is. 2 greater participants in the Tint of Suspicion Bowl you will not find. Texas A&M, UCLA. Nonsense. At least this year, neither one of them are being as hyped as they traditionally are, where you go, man, the last time UCLA was good at football was when they played Miami in the rematch when Edgerrin James ran for like 4,000 yards against them.
Just wait for the
It wasn't a rematch. It was the rescheduled because of the lightning thing.
Just wait for the preseason polls. That's a top 20 matchup. Those two teams.
It can't be.
It'll be 12 versus 17.
No.
Mark it 8, dude.
I'm putting Texas A&M. Here's Jeff Cameron's preseason rank. Texas A&M 37th, UCLA 40th. And that's a real good matchup.
Evenly matched teams.
Very evenly matched. Cows at North Carolina. Sneaky. South Carolina, NC State. Georgia Tech, Tennessee. Oh, week 1. West Virginia, Virginia Tech.
Interesting enough.
You didn't know about that one.
I did.
You had no idea.
We went through week 1 together last week.
I can tell. Louisville and Purdue. Not interesting at all. I desperately want Purdue to be decent at some point again. Week 2, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Nebraska, and Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Louisville, North Carolina, Auburn and Clemson, Utah, BYU, TCU, Arkansas, Southern Cal at Stanford, Pitt and Penn State. What a game that was a year ago. Boise State and Washington State. Woo!
Wow, week 2 kicks ass.
That does kick ass.
It's not going to Doak.
Yeah, that's a shaky slate there at Doak. But if you're in the Champions Club, you can watch all these.
Well, the Memorial one, yeah.
Yeah. Week 3, did you know Texas was at USC? What are we doing here?
Texas and USC?
Tennessee's at Florida, Miami at Florida State for the annual loss for Miami. Clemson's at Louisville week 3.
Yeah.
I had a wager last year with a gentleman that I met up at the corner pocket between Clemson and Louisville. He still has not paid me my money. That's a true story. A lot of people witnessed that wager. He was boisterous about how it was that he thought Louisville would win that game. I told him he was wrong repeatedly. Then he wanted to wager a decent sum of money illegally. I said, I'll take you up on that. He's never paid me. You know who you are. Oklahoma State at Pitt and Wisconsin's at BYU.
Hashtag a-hole.
I can't do a whole segment where you just go week by week. That doesn't seem right. Although I am having fun, even if you're not.
It was fun.
Week 4, UCLA, Stanford, Oregon, Arizona State, Oklahoma, Baylor. Ooh. Notre Dame, Michigan State, Washington, Colorado. Oh, that would have been fun back in the day, maybe.
If that's a 10 p.m. kick, I'm all over it.
Oh, buddy, out on the deck.
Oh, yeah.
NC State, Florida State, Penn State, Iowa. Week 4 does not really. Week 4 ain't moving the needle.
You know, I just got really excited. You're talking about these games. I'm thinking about the Pac-12 slate because we play a lot of primetime games. It's swinging by because I live so close to the corner pocket.
Oh, it's nice. You just walk over there?
For the late kick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
And when it gets nice outside?
And I leave and I say, I'll see you in 10 hours because I'm coming back for the NFL. It's so great.
Well, that's especially good when you're not out on the deck when somebody runs somebody over down Appalachian Parkway. It's a better time when that doesn't happen.
That was the Pac-12 title game.
That was crazy.
When that happened.
Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
Week 5, Clemson at Virginia Tech, Colorado at UCLA, Ole Miss at Alabama, Georgia's at Tennessee, Iowa's at Michigan State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech. By the way, Georgia at Tennessee, that feels like
the de facto SEC East title game?
Well, it just listen, let's go back to this and you can, cut the music because I'm not going to go through every week here. I might mention it spottedly throughout the show just because it's fun, but I will say this. We all feel like Georgia is supposed to take the step right under Kirby now and go ahead and be very good and take the East. It's there for the taking. Become that team that, properly represents the East in a way that is competitive when they get into the SEC championship game as opposed to the way Florida has the last two.
Yeah, I think the problem is with the program, you could put the G and then put under it taking the next step, and that would probably be the shirt every year. So
it could also say, we live under the tent of suspicion, along with Texas A&M and UCLA.
An SEC East team in the tent of suspicion.
Georgia has for a long, long time. There's that one Georgia guy that listens to the show. Well, there's lots of Georgia guys that listen to the show, but the one Georgia guy that specifically really loves Georgia and gets very angry with me when I slight them. Listen, they at some point, right? You take it. Go do it. Make it happen. Butch Jones ain't getting it done at Tennessee.
We're pulling for you in a way. We both hate the same team from Gainesville.
Yeah, and I have no problem with Georgia. He thinks secretly I do. I don't know what that's about. Alabama at Texas A&M week 6. LSU at Florida week 6. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves. Week 1 and week 2 is near us, so it's more fun when you do that. Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Louisville, NC State. That could be fun.
Okay. That's week 6?
That's week 6.
Okay.
Ole Miss and Auburn.
I like NC State in that game. I like it. I'll put it down right now. I like them.
Put it on the big board.
Can I? Is that a bold endeavor?
It's not a bold endeavor because I think there's a good chance you're right. I may agree with you, and I bet you by the time we get to that game, Vegas might agree with you too.
So I should get in now if there's a line.
Yeah, well, see if you can find one. But there'll be, you got to hold out there. I don't think so. I'm still looking for, you know what I do love? I don't know why it's kind of lost on me since they switched conferences. But there's something cool about seeing Penn State and Nebraska on the field at the same time together.
It's the clean look. Looks like an old electric football game from the 50s.
It's the history, the historical value of a game like that. I like that game. I don't know why, and that's not till week 12. We got nearly the end of the season.
Helmet with a red stripe and a red top, white bottoms. Then you got the plain white with the navy stripe.
Yeah, it just looks good.
There
just
it is.
Feels like it should be a good game. It's not necessarily a good game. It just feels like it should be.
In the battle of the more plain uniforms, would you rather see Nebraska, Penn State on the same field or Alabama and Penn State on the same field?
Alabama and Penn State,
Okay.
which we have seen before and was great. And I, by the way, many times over the years, have noted that while I do believe Florida State has the best uniforms in college football, and I sincerely believe that.
Still?
Yeah. It depends on which one we trot out there. Yeah, there's one specifically that I think is still the best in college football. But to me, the second best is Penn State's. I've always loved that.
I've liked Michigan State, but they've toyed with it a little too much for my liking.
Green and white with the the Spartan sides tight.
I know that you agree with this. Pitt's back in play these days.
Because they went old school.
Yeah.
With the baby blue.
Mm-hmm.
Quality. I like North Carolina's uniforms. I like Oklahoma's. I like Texas. Stanford, which is a lot like some of the others we were talking about.
Well, I mean, like Oklahoma, Alabama are kind of the same. Yeah.
You like Washington's uniforms?
I feel like I have to say yes.
I like Washington's
like,
uniforms.
Know your place. This guy loves Washington.
No, but don't you like Washington?
I do.
They're good uniforms.
Independent of that.
Yeah, they're good uniforms. They're good uniforms.
Kansas State in that same kind of ilk.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
The old school helmet logo? Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's good.
All right. That's enough of that. We'll move forward. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Conditioner checked out and change your air filters. You'll be pleasantly surprised at how much energy and money you can save. Going away from home on vacation? Why not purchase a programmable thermostat to regulate your air conditioner while you're not at home? Talk about an investment that'll pay energy savings dividends. Make an appointment right away for a free energy audit from the City of Tallahassee Utilities. You never know how much energy you can save until you do it. The City of Tallahassee is offering insulation grants. Why not apply for one? Did you know that the City of Tallahassee offers loans to help with the purchase of solar water heaters? Visit talgov.com/YOU for information on loans and rebates. So stay cool, go green, and save energy all summer long. A message from the City of Tallahassee Utilities, America's #1 public utility.
For better gas mileage and a longer-lasting engine, change your vehicle's oil at Superlube every 3 months or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. For good times and family fun, Tallahassee heads to the Fun Station. And right now, when you change your oil at Superlube, you'll get a $15 Fun Station gift card. You don't need an appointment. You'll be in and out in no time. And with 19 Tallahassee area Superlubes, there's probably one right around the corner right now.
How I love to Superlube my car, yes sir!
Tallahassee loves the corner pocket as much as a crystal ball winning catch.
He's looking, he lost it to the end zone. It's Benjamin! Touchdown! With 13 seconds left.
The 97.9 ESPN radio special is a must-have every Monday and Wednesday at the corner pocket. 10 mouth-watering wings, a fresh side of fries, and a chilled domestic pint of beer are just $9.79 all day long. Be sure and try the fish blend of sauces, a true wing eater's favorite. The Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
He's gone!
Home of Trivia Tuesday, Beer Bingo Thursday, and the daily $7.99 lunch special.
The Furniture Bank of Tallahassee, a division of ECHO, is the only local program that collects and distributes gently used furniture free of charge to Leon County residents in need. Our free furniture bank donates to eligible clients such as families recovering from fire or disaster, formerly homeless clients moving into their own homes, and veterans in a rehousing program. In 2016, we helped 138 families, including 33 vets, rebuild their lives. For more information or to have your furniture picked up, call 224-ECHO. Call 224-ECHO.
Might I suggest the chicken taco salad from Banditos Burritos, my friend?
Wonder what the outrageously energizing experience of Mountain Dew Kickstart is like? Well, it's like a combo of 3 awesome things. Dew, juice, and caffeine, rebooting your entire personal operating system.
Mountain Dew Kickstart is in position for consumption. All systems cleared for launch. Initiate launch sequence. T-minus 3, 2, 1, mark. Release the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Mountain Dew Kickstart released. Experiencing a charge of Mountain Dew Kickstart now.
Mountain Dew Kickstart operation successful.
You are now off the couch and out exploring the world.
Roger that.
Get charged up for what's coming next anytime, anywhere with Mountain Dew Kickstart. Available in 10 energizing flavors like mango lime, raspberry citrus, midnight grape, and orange citrus. Mountain Dew Kickstart. Fuel with flavor.
RCD Shell knows how to keep you cool and refreshed. All 20-ounce Pepsi and Mountain Dew products are 2 for $2.22. That's right, 2 for $2.22. And 28-ounce Gatorade is buy one, get one free. It's more fun with Pepsi and Dew, so bring on the bubbles with these cool prices at RCD Shell.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
I knew this would happen. I knew everybody would get up in arms with the 99% had signs of CTE study that was released of deceased NFL players. And one of the things that I've noticed with this is I think part of what's at play here is that if something is threatening something that you really love or that you were a part of and loved doing, but that's true of even just watching. If it's something that you enjoy, if it's a brand of entertainment or anything along those lines, if you find out something negative about it and it calls into question sort of your overall view on either the activity or the years that you've enjoyed it, and you have to look in the mirror and you have to start to see things in a different light, or you got to look at things in a different way, it's just incredibly uncomfortable for people. And going through that, it's a little bit like, on a much smaller degree, to a much smaller degree, finding a form of self-awareness of your strengths and weaknesses as a person, right? When you go through that process of self-actualization, it's tough. You can struggle with that because you have to admit certain truths. You have to admit certain things to yourself that are uncomfortable. You have to recognize aspects of your personality or your behaviors that you don't like in yourself and you wish you didn't do or have. Specific to football, people get very uncomfortable with the idea that increasingly we're learning that beyond what you already knew to be true, it's a very dangerous game, and that it's potentially a deadly game, a game that can cause irreparable damage to your brain. It's not to say that everybody who's ever played football has brain damage or will develop it. It's not to say that there are plenty of people who've played in the NFL and are now in their late 60s and doing just fine. They exist. But by and large, we're learning more and more that if you play football for a long period of time, and especially if you play at the highest levels where bigger, stronger, faster is on display in a way that is almost unimaginable, and the violence of the game is also what is so great about the game. The sacrifices being made, the willingness to subject yourself to this kind of physical harm, that's hard for people to stomach. It's hard for people to swallow. It's hard for people to understand that, because they think, well, don't make this thing that I love and this thing that I get so much out of go away. And I don't think that's the goal. And I think that's where the mistake happens. I think people hear this study or that study says that football is hazardous to your health, that it could cause brain damage, and more we're realizing that in many cases, in fact, it does. They equate that with they're going to take my football away. I don't think so. I think it's in an effort to fully understand the risks you're taking, not unlike NASCAR. Everybody knows if you race cars for a living and you repeatedly get into a vehicle and go 150 to 200 miles per hour, you're running the risk of death. that if you crash a car at that speed, there's a good chance, not guaranteed, but there's a good chance that you're going to suffer great bodily harm and or death. It can happen. Motorcycle racers, think about what they put themselves through. You see it in sports across the world. You name your sport. In an effort to educate, and the more we learn, further enlighten people who are choosing to do this activity, I think it's very important to understand the risk, understand the percentages, understand what's at stake. And then we can feel better about what it is we're watching when a person coming up armed with all of that knowledge and understanding of what's at play or what's a possibility, then chooses to play the sport. You can say, all right, I'm watching in good conscience. I know that this individual is fully aware of the risks in play. They weren't for a very, very, very long time. They knew that football could break bones or tear ACLs or dislocate shoulders. Neck injury was always a possibility. I think anybody who's ever played football worried to some extent that they could suffer from a neck injury, because that's sometimes something you can't really recover from. You don't worry about your elbow or your shoulder or your back. You worry a lot about a neck injury. Now we're worried a lot about brain injury, and we should be, because the science is saying that it's a possibility if you play the game of football that you're gonna develop a form of CTE. The more we educate, the better off we are, and those that play the game certainly are better off. But when you see the immediate knee-jerk reaction by some former players that have become commentators, and certainly people who try to politicize it, it is almost always slanted or twisted into some political argument or a belief that that's what this is, that this is some form of political correctness or some form of liberal agenda or something along. You'll hear people say that. Danny Kanell said something very similar to that, which was asinine and dumb. But I don't think, again, I think this is basically a misunderstanding as to what the research is showing, what's intending to do. How about that? Intending to do. I think nobody is saying you're not allowed to play football anymore. Nope, nobody has said that. Nobody has said that what we are saying and what science is showing, you need to know the risks. You need to know that there are things you could be doing to help prevent some of this. And once you're armed with that knowledge and you still choose to make this decision, so be it. Now, there's a larger discussion, Tom. I get it. This happens whenever we discuss people volunteering. We have a volunteer army. People aren't drafted anymore. So when somebody chooses to go in the military and then something bad happens, you'll often hear the response, well, they chose to go in the military. We also know that there's a socio-political and racial element to some of that in some cases, and so that's a larger discussion to be had. But I think if we just start with the idea that everybody who plays moving forward, we're in that era now, that age now, where the science is showing us certain things. And there are a lot more studies to be done. And certainly there are some studies that puts football in a more favorable light. At the very least, it's just the effort, I think, to educate.
The quest for knowledge is never a bad thing.
No, and I just absolutely sit back perplexed. It's just fear. It's a lot of fear when you hear the reactions from former players or people. Look, I grew up, I love football. I played football, and there is so much good that comes out of playing football. And, this is another part of it, Tom. Anybody who played the game, anybody who, and this is true of other sports too, it's not just football, but since we're talking football, I'll bring it up. When you do sacrifice and when you work as hard as you have to work to be good in football, and there's such a physically taxing element to the game, and a sacrifice of your body, of your time, all of those things, and you do it alongside somebody, you learn an awful lot, by being in a large group like that with people that are different than you. You learn a lot about yourself, mental and physical toughness. These are life lessons that you take with you and that you can utilize in any field. And I almost believe that 100% of the people that ever played a sport, an organized sport, but I'll use football since that's a sport I played and love and still do, they will all tell you, I'm willing to risk certain injuries or in this case, brain damage even, for what I was able to derive from football and how it informed the rest of my life and what I was able to accomplish and do because of it. Like, there are plenty of people that are in their 50s and 60s that grew up playing football, love football, will tell you, you know what, if when I'm 70, I have some issues, you know what, it was worth it to me. I got that much out of football. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Other people might not, but that's fine. I think that's how much they love the game and how much they think it provides for you moving forward in your life and every aspect of your life. And that helps inform the backlash to the information we're getting now about what football can cause in some individuals.
Okay, yeah, I think there's a few things to unpack, and one of them is the information isn't hurting anybody. The information doesn't hurt anybody. Football hurts people. So I don't get why there would be backlash to better education for somebody who's going to make that decision whether or not to play football.
Again, I think what I'm saying is I think it's because of fear that it's going to be taken.
Oh, too. I almost said something else. Listen, it's not going that direction.
No,
like,
it's
if
not.
You want to talk
That's
about
the point.
If you want to talk about, and really, we're going to go government's role with football.
Well, there isn't really one.
No, but that's what the fear, those who are afraid would say, who's going to take football away?
Nobody, because billionaires won't allow for their billionaire thing to go away.
Well, okay, but what I'm saying is if you want to talk about intervention.
Nobody's taking boxing away.
Sure. I got it, but also 8-year-olds aren't boxing. I think that's the number one conversation that I think science could help dictate moving forward is at what point are kids allowed to play full contact football?
Well, and here, yes, I agree. That is another element of that.
Legally speaking,
Yes. The rise in flag football is directly a result of this, right? This worry, this fear, and the amount of information that is coming out now about the potential for brain damage that football can cause.
So the NFL has, subsidized and endorsed flag football leagues. You don't think that they get what's going on? Sure.
Absolutely. And what I tell people, too, is that you don't think there's probably anybody who loves football more than, say, Jimbo Fisher. I'm using him since he's Florida State's head coach. There's any number of guys that grew up playing the game. They've got millions of dollars because they've played the game, because they've invested their life in the game, because they love the game, who are also of the mindset and say, well, it's good to learn more about what we should or should not be doing as we teach the game of football to youngsters. And if that means that we don't have them hit one another and wear helmets and tackle until they're in high school or until they're 17 years old or whatever it might be, that's fine. Like, those people, once they got past the idea of a concussion being the boogeyman, and once they found that there was a way to treat that and to recover from that before going back out onto the field, I think it took a little time, but coaches began to say, okay, I can take ownership of that. I can accept that that's a reality of our game. John Gruden talked about how, hey, football is a violent game. It's not for everybody. Not everybody needs to play football. He's right, and that's fine. You just need to further educate and let people make those decisions. The backlash is just born out of ignorance, though. To me, yes, it is this suspicious mindset that somebody is trying to take something away, and I don't think that's what anybody's doing.
I agree. No, I think it's you want to get into the psychology of it. I think the person's afraid that they're not going to like the sport anymore if they hear too many more stories about what it actually does to people.
Right, and fully
don't tell me, I don't want to hear that. I just want to watch the game. I don't want to hear about how bad it is.
Exactly. Well, and not even that. Yes. Okay. So
that's what they're actually saying.
Sure, and you have to confront that reality that you are paying money to watch guys entertain you who are maybe beating themselves to death. Yes, but that's been something that's been on the plate for a long time in a variety of sports.
Sure,
and
entertainment too. A lot of people love to watch Chris Benoit wrestle.
Right. I mean, that's going on across sports. It's not just and entertainment in that case. It's not beholden solely to football. It's not just now that is a game. Certainly, it's the most popular game in the country, and so that's why it reaches the headline status that it does. People don't care about women's soccer. That's why you're not reading about those. Also, on a play-to-play basis, women aren't banging their heads into each other.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's where I think there's a cutoff here. One, the fundamental point of the game is to hit somebody to prevent something from happening. That's while soccer can be quite a physical sport, there is no doubt elbows
right,
to
that
heads
lacrosse, all other sports that produce a lot of concussions are what those people fall back on to make an argument for football. But they're doing so. That's again born out of ignorance.
I think,
and fear.
I think you got a group of people who just don't want to hear about the dangers of it and how bad it is for the combatants, because then it intrudes upon the
enjoyment of the game.
And they relate to football, and football is a part of what they are and who they are, and so they don't want to have that part taken away by the inconvenient facts.
But I think it can be both, Tom. Here's what I don't understand. I guess my point would be this, and we're not arguing. We're in agreement here.
Agreed. That the people are delusional. It's not
but what I'm saying is football is a part of who I am and what I love. It always has been.
Me too. We're working in Tallahassee in sports radio, man.
But my point of that would be this, that I could be that guy that grew up playing, that played junior midgets in high school and all of that, and know that there's a possibility that, who knows, maybe someday I'll suffer from CTE. I don't think so. I only ever had one concussion. I'm sure when that concussion happened, I did brain damage, yes, but suffered from brain damage. But having said that, there's nothing wrong with gaining information, falling back on the science, learning more about these things. Why would you want to be ignorant? Why would you willfully be ignorant about anything? Well, you're not a Neanderthal. You want to know so that you can be informed and make informed decisions. So the knee-jerk reaction to facts and to science should never be, oh, God, don't take away my favorite sport or my favorite thing. It should be, oh, wow, okay. Well, what do I think about that? Let's process that. Let's sit down and kind of vet this a little bit about what I think.
Yeah, one would think it would free you to enjoy the sport if you know the facts, choose to still watch the sport, and you know full well what you're watching. Then you can either freely enjoy it or you can decide, you know what,
well,
I don't like it anymore.
It's also what's led to, I think, a more open-minded approach to players who self-medicate with marijuana. I think you're seeing and hearing from people who at one time would have really been against something like that for a variety of reasons, who now at least take the step back to say, really, that's the hill I want to die on here? I'm going to argue about these guys who are playing, as I always point out, a gladiatorial sport in which they batter themselves, in some cases, to the point of being, well, I won't say near death because that's overly dramatic, but certainly injured for life, for my entertainment, and because they love it, true, and I'm going to complain if maybe every now and then they smoke a doobie to deal with the pain that's derived from that. Get the hell out of here.
For me, I think the number one thing is I hope the science takes us to a place where we can definitively say how dangerous it is for a young person to play the sport.
Well, yeah, that would be important.
Okay, like that's the number one thing for me as it pertains to science and the sport itself. But I think as to the people who are willfully ignorant or want to be or afraid, whatever, I think it's the same thing, not exactly the same topic, but I think it's in the same vein as those college football fans who don't want to hear about the recruiting game. You know, it's about pageantry. It's not about money. It's not about what it takes to get a player on campus. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a great sector of college football fans specifically that want to focus on the fight song and want to focus on the school colors and the tradition. And they don't want to hear about how sometimes underhanded things have to happen in order for a player to fly across the country and play for your school for 4 years.
And that maybe your school
is
a contributing factor to what makes college football dirty.
Because, you know, the money still has to come into the university.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there are people who just don't want to have anything intrude on this perfect image that they have of football. And I think whether that's the recruiting game in college football or concussions throughout the sport, I think it comes from the same place.
Yeah, sure. And I don't know why, if you're a parent of a kid who wants to play football, that you wouldn't want to know the facts, or at least have an idea of where those studies are going and who is conducting them. I mean, do your own research. You don't have to take as gospel everything that comes out. You certainly can find out how that study was funded, who's involved in it, what the goal was, right? So you can do that, and you can derive for yourself the facts and learn, catch yourself up to where we're at and what the medical science knows and doesn't know and what they're trying to learn, right? These are, in some cases, you've got empirical data telling you that.
But from personal experience, for you and I, it's something we do share. You started in this business much, much earlier than I did, but, there is a process of learning the behind-the-curtain machine.
Yeah.
And there are, in some ways, you and I will watch a Florida State game more clinically than we would if we didn't know what happened behind the curtain. But in other ways, you appreciate it all the more because you see how hard it is
yeah.
to build a program and to get it to a place. Whether all those things are something that you want to pump your chest about or not, it's a really hard thing to run a successful college football program. And so there's a greater appreciation, and there's a more jaded side of us that, it's a privilege, but it also comes with the territory of working in this field as you kind of see how the sausage is made a little bit.
I just like the idea that players, modern players, because of studies like this, because of research that's currently being done, will be informed in a way that previous players never have been. And they can then make an educated decision about whether or not they want to play football. And that has never happened in the history of the sport before. I mean, they were lied to repeatedly by their own employers, by doctors on those teams, by the league. We're entering an era where certainly, anybody that, if you take a kid now and he starts playing football, say in high school, and he goes on to play pro football, really he's growing up at a time where the risks, at least as it pertains to potential brain damage, are known. I mean, you would have to have your head in the sand not to have read or come across articles talking about the direct link of playing football and CTE.
I think the funny part is for the people who overreact automatically, be it they media or just super fans, I think that's their inner conscience crying out.
Sure.
It's not because they think they know where it's going to lead, and it's going to lead to a bad place. But what if the science takes us to a place that says, all right, it's mostly circumstantial. If a kid stops playing contact football between 14 and 19 years old, the chances of him developing CTE
are very slim.
Are 60% less.
Well, you may find that out. Right. Let's continue to study and find out. Let's get the information. Let's find out the facts.
It might exonerate football.
Absolutely, it might. Or it may provide for an opportunity to make football safer, which is what they're doing with the rules changes, which may fundamentally alter the sport, but not make it unwatchable. Maybe just a different way of playing the football game. Now, that may bother an old-timer like me who likes the game to be played in a certain way and have a certain aesthetic, but I'm not for ignorance. I'm for obvious progress. So if it's going to save lives and keep people from having brains that are mush, then you got to do what you got to do.
It's the beginning of Shawshank. And don't you find it convenient that, this happens, and Tim Robbins responds, well, seeing as I didn't commit this,
inconvenient.
Seeing as I didn't commit this crime, I find it decidedly inconvenient.
Yes. No, and it's true. I mean, I think I do marvel at how quickly there's the backlash when studies like this come out. And I'm, again, not assuming anything. It's just something you should read and, again, find out who conducted the study, over how long, who funded the study, what were the overriding goals at the start of the study. I mean, these are things that you can find out. It's not hard. And your immediate reaction to research and science and facts shouldn't be fear.
Well, and the whole point of science is to vet.
Yeah.
So the study may be loaded with bad data, too. Just vet it.
Yeah, but
that's why peer review is a vital part to science.
Right.
That could be loaded with people who have an agenda and they decide to stack the data.
Could. You
might want to look into it.
Maybe not. Maybe it's just that they've done the study, they were commissioned to do so, and they find out.
The hell with it. Can they just kick off already?
Well, now listen. What's funny is once you're armed with the information that we've been armed with over now the last 4 and 5 years, and it's steadily growing, what do you do as a consumer? What do you do as a fan? I mean, it's one thing certainly for us to know that certain shirts we might be wearing are made in a sweatshop. You go buy that brand still? I think most of us do. I think most of us says you wear a Nike cap. I'm not saying anything. I'm just, you can arm folks with information that they may find absolutely repulsive.
Well, and this segment's not from the pulpit. This is sports talk radio in a football market.
You're damn right.
You know
and
what
I'm watching
saying?
Every game this year. No, but I don't think that they have to be, mutually exclusive. What I'm saying is you can have all the information and you can know that some of it isn't good, at least as it pertains to wanting your kids to play football or the enjoyment you get out of football, whatever that might be. But it certainly is always helpful to have the facts, to have the science, to have the information when making an informed decision. It may be that you get all of those facts, and once you know that the players themselves have been educated about the risks they're taking, and yet they make the decision to still play, and they're willing to accept those risks, that it's much easier for you to watch the damn game. In fact, it would be. I think universally anybody who's listening to this would say it would be. If I know that Jerry is fully armed with all of the facts that we have up to this point, and he knows that he's running a risk, whatever percentage that might be, that he is going to end up with CTE, or for that matter, arthritic knees, which is more than likely to happen if you play football long enough, or a bad shoulder, or whatever it might be. And yet he chooses to do that because the benefits are that much more rewarding to him than the negatives, which is something that I would say from when I played. Good. Go get him, Jerry. Kick some ass, and I can't wait to watch it. It is thoroughly entertaining.
I don't know what this word.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Unstoppable this season.
Yeah, you're doing great on the field this year, but how'd you do on your test today?
Well...
Hi, I'm Lance Davis. Let Engaged Academics be your answer to helping your athlete balance their academics and athletics. Visit engagedacademics.org for more information. That's engagedacademics.org.
Hey, Wally Woodham here. In 1974, I set the national high school passing record at Leon High with 3,560 yards.
Jimmy Jordan here. Wally, I broke your passing record at Leon the very next year.
Well, Jimmy, in our 3 years together at FSU, I threw for 22 touchdown passes.
Wally, that's pretty good, but I had 39.
Well, Jimmy, look at the deal I got at AAA Transmission.
That's a pretty good deal, Wally. At least your car's a winner.
Don't put off your auto repairs. Stop in at AAA Transmission and ask for owner Tim Pridgeon, servicing Tallahassee for over 30 years. AAA Transmission, 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices, like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J. Farrar, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes, and select items like $7.99 St. John's Bay polos and shorts for $9.99. Plus, this is the only time of the year you can stack on your coupon and save an extra $10 on top of Black Friday prices. Hurry, and Saturday. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 7/26 to 7/29 on select items in store and at jcp.com. Some exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
The Home Depot has a new idea. Free carpet installation that means free carpet installation. Clearing out furniture? Free. Ripping out old carpet? No charge. Hauling it away? On the house. No hidden fees, just free installation on carpet $699 or more. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Valid on carpet priced $1 or more per square foot. Unique specialty items and requirements may be priced separately. Not valid in all markets. See homedepot.com for details. Offer ends August 16th.
Barry knows cool. He's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows cool. You can put him to the test.
Don't let Tallahassee's hot summers get you down. Barano Heating and Air Conditioning can help in case of a breakdown, day or night. Their certified technicians can get you up and running in no time. Turn to the experts at Carrier and at Barano Heating and Air. Call 580-4029 or visit baranoac.com. Florida license number CAC 057652.
Need a place to watch your favorite sporting event? Hobbit American Grill, voted best wings in Tallahassee by Tally Awards 3 years in a row. Thirsty? They have the Lucky Sevens. $7 domestic pitchers after 7 p.m., 7 days a week, $7.95. Daily specials. Locally owned and operated since 1978. Hobbit American Grill keeps it local with a wide variety of locally crafted beers plus a full bar. Hobbit American Grill. 3 locations to choose from. 400 Capitol Circle Southeast, 2020 West Pensacola Street, and 5032 Capitol Circle Southwest. Visit them online at myhobbitonline.com.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Hey, this is Clay Culpepper with Miller's Tree Service. Summertime is here and storm season is right around the corner. We offer free consultations with a certified arborist where we meet with you and advise you on which trees are healthy, diseased, dead, or ones that may need trimming or even removal.
Miller's Tree Service, we go out on a limb for you.
Give us a call at 894-TREE.
Get your weekend started right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Saturdays at 6 a.m. with Fishing Florida Radio. Listen to the three amigos, Boudreaux, Steve Chapman, and Captain Mike Ortega as they catch you up to speed on what's new and biting in the North Florida region. Big-time guests, celebrities, interviews, and 3 hours of the fishing info you need. Fishing Florida Radio is brought to you by Sea Quarters Marina off Highway 98 in Carabel. Sea Quarters Marina, your full-service marina, and presented by Hobbit American Grill, locally owned and operated since 1978.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Tempted to let that play. It's fun. I liked yesterday's question from Mike. When FSU's defense plays lights out this year, what percentage of credit do you guys think Coach Kelly will get and should get for the success? Because he'll certainly get 100% of the blame if things look average. That's true. Oh, I think he'll get a lot of credit. I think he'll get a ton of credit.
Really?
Yeah, I think people like Coach Kelly. They want him to succeed. He's eminently likable and a nice guy, and a guy who showed loyalty to the program when he had opportunity to leave the program for $1 million, and who would have ever blamed him for that? He stuck around, was downright emotional talking about his affinity for Florida State and for Jimbo Fisher and the loyalty that Jimbo showed him. So I think he is a likable figure. Now, expectations are that you have to do infinitely better than you did last year, and that's also fair. Both can be true. I think he's a really likable guy that you want to see succeed. If he doesn't, he's got to be fired. I think it's cut and dry with him right now.
I agree. I would just be stunned if outside of the circle, Jimbo and his players, he gets a whole ton of credit for the season. I would think that most people would be consistent enough to, on the other side, say, great job not bleeping it up.
Well, I mean, to me, when you look as lost as that group did a year ago, and clearly whatever knowledge and acumen for the game that Coach Kelly has, and by the way, that is a well-respected knowledge of the game amongst coaching circles, his inability to translate that in a way that players could understand, grasp, and then execute was what was at fault, which is the job you're tasked with. So I don't care that you understand something intimately. If you can't teach it and you can't get kids to execute it, then you're not very good at coaching and you shouldn't be here. And so that's how that will go. But if they turn around and do execute it and you have a defense play to the talent that it has and they execute and they're consistently good, how would he not get the credit? I mean, that'd be foolish. I'll lead the way in giving him credit. I can tell you that.
I think it'll be qualified credit because I think it'll be, good job. There'll be a tinge of something in the tone of voice rather than as though it was a fresh start and a first season.
It's just easier said than done. We've certainly come to understand that, but I don't know, man. I would say that because it will be in stark contrast to what you saw. So, for example, if they shut down Louisville, yeah, there'll be some like, well, good Lord, it would have been nice to see that last year. Sure, that's just the anger that's still resonating from that day. But I think, hey, good job. would be in order. And I think most people would say, well, that's not easy to do because that guy put up some crooked numbers on a lot of people. And if all of a sudden you shut down the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and you get your revenge and you're playing really solid defense, it'd be hard to ignore the successes and not give credit where credit's due. Yes, it doesn't mean that he's not constantly on notice.
Okay. Yeah, because the Trickett thing, it's kind of
right,
similar.
Right. Because he's had some good years, but he's had some years where you're like, damn it, man, you're kind of the problem. Yeah, and he'll stay on notice. There's no doubt. Final hour, forthcoming. Stay with.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Carrier and Barano Heating and Air, 580-4029 or BaranoAC.com. Florida license number CAC 057652.
Get to JCPenney for Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday only, find spotlight deals at Black Friday prices, like 60% off select Arizona jeans, uniforms, Total Girl and Exertion apparel, and much more. Plus, this is the only time of the year you can stack on your coupon and save an extra $10 on top of Black Friday prices. This won't happen again, so hurry. Black Friday in July and Saturday. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. Coupon valid 7/26 to 7/29 on select items in store and at jcp.com. Some exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Attention investors, protect your IRA or 401k by storing your retirement at home with an Augusta Home Delivery Gold IRA. Call Augusta today at 888-852-4788 for a free guide on transferring a portion of your IRA or 401k into approved physical gold and silver coins and store them in your safe at home or at your local bank. Call 888-852-4788 today and discover how you can get up to $2,000 in silver free. Call 888-852-4788. That's 888-852-4788.
Tallahassee loves the corner pocket as much as a crystal ball winning catch.
He's looking, he wants it to the end zone. It's Benjamin! Touchdown! With 13 seconds left.
The 97.9 ESPN radio special is a must-have every Monday and Wednesday at the corner pocket. 10 mouth-watering wings, a fresh side of fries, and a chilled domestic pint of beer are just $9.79 all day long. Be sure and try the fish blend of sauces, a true wing eater's favorite. The Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
He's gone!
Home of Trivia Tuesday, Beer Bingo Thursday, and the daily $7.99 lunch special.
The Furniture Bank of Tallahassee, a division of Echo, is the only local program that collects and distributes gently used furniture free of charge to Leon County residents in need. Our free furniture bank donates to eligible clients such as families recovering from fire or disaster, formerly homeless clients moving into their own homes, and veterans in a rehousing program. In 2016, we helped 138 families, including 33 vets, rebuild their lives. For more information or to have your furniture picked up, call 224-ECHO. Call 224-ECHO.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
With what you need to know, this is Adrian Lawrence. Some deals are getting done on the gridiron. The NFL Network reports that the Vikings signed defensive end Everson Griffin to a 4-year extension. Only 4 players have more sacks than Griffin since the start of the 2014 season. To the AFC North, hoping to improve their depth at running back, the Ravens re-signed Bobby Rainey today. That's what ESPN's Adam Schefter reports. Rainey helps fill in during the absence of Kenneth Dixon, who just had surgery on a torn meniscus and is 50-50 on returning this season. To Carolina, no deal quite yet for Panthers linebacker Thomas Davis, who said negotiations for an extension are ongoing. Also in the NFC South, Falcons tackle Don Terry Poe's second incentive weigh-in is today. If he's 330 pounds or less, Poe will pocket $125,000. The Falcons will pay him up to $500,000 in bonuses if he can meet the 4 weigh-ins. And in tennis, the world's number 4 men's player, Novak Djokovic, well, he's going to miss the rest of the season due to an injured right elbow. That means the Joker's pulling out of the U.S. Open, ending his 51 Grand Slam tournament streak.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices. Like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least 4 today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything. But if you do get caught up at the end of the show, when we post all 3 hours, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault, every day upon the conclusion of the show, you'll get that. And you do so with limited commercial interruption, thanks to our great sponsor, CarltonDean.com. Email the show if you like. It's jcs at 979espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter at jcameron show. This hour we'll do some audio. We'll get some Jimbo Fisher audio from yesterday when he was at the car wash talking Florida State, Bama, all things Florida State in general. I think he came across as good as he ever has, really. This was a good run up there. It was good for Florida State. It was good PR, and also I thought his answers were fun. For lack of a better term, I thought he had some fun with it. It looked like he even enjoyed some of those interviews. Normally, I don't think any of the coaches really want to do that. They just see the importance of it and the need to do it, and they know how good it is for their program. But it's a long day.
Well, for a while, it was what's the punchline? Where's the punchline going to be? But, he's eased up over the years with successes. And it was the Orange Bowl championship in 2012 that served to help him an awful lot. And then, prior to the 2013 season, he had that fall press conference when he even admitted as much as sometimes you tell somebody just to tell them something, which for Jimbo at the time was a landmark moment of self-introspection. And then there's the national title year. There's 29 straight,
Yeah, once you've done something like that and you're routinely listed as one of the top 10 coaches in football, then, I think you probably let your guard down quite a bit.
Well, yeah, you're a couple of calls away from beating Clemson last year, who wins the national title. So he knows that even in a down year, as last year was against expectations, the margin is razor thin, and we're right there where we need to be.
We're going to get to those comments, and we'll comment on those and have fun with the audio. Before I do that, and this is not what I was going to lead with, I just read an article during the break in which I read that Julio Jones lost a pair of earrings worth $150,000. What the hell, man? Again, I'll ask it. If you were worth $100 million, just throwing it out there, would you own a pair of earrings or piece of jewelry, for that matter, worth $150,000?
No, I can't relate to that. No, but I
don't begrudge anybody what they do. Do what you want. I'm not saying I'm jealous of the money or anything like that. It's just that's just dumb because things like that happen. Because, you lose a watch, you lose sunglasses, you lose a ring, earrings. Why would you have $150,000 pair? It's just dumb.
I learned that lesson as a kid. Actually, I recently learned that lesson. I had prescription sunglasses from an old friend of ours.
I did too.
Yeah. Well, yours got run over.
Mine got run over.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because your kids put them underneath.
Well,
your
I ran
wheel.
them over after, yes. It wasn't a smart thing. I also lost a pair prior to that. I'm forever. Glasses, that's the one downside about the glasses, my man.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you need prescription on top of it and it's going to be light to dark in a day, then you need to put, in the zipper, you need to, or have a case on you, which is cumbersome. So, in the course of a tailgate Saturday after we were done with our pregame show, I set them down on a table, and then there it was. They're gone.
Yeah.
Like $250 prescription sunglasses that are quite useful to me, but
damn it, man.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson.
No. Imagine if it was $150,000 prescription glasses.
Well, isn't it about the same, for his earning power? It's probably about the same amount of money to him as $250 is to me.
Losing those in a lake. I'm always absolutely astounded when I read things like that. Again, it's not the traditional take. It's not these guys, well, that's what you get, spending all your money on something frivolous like that. No, it's just dumb because you lose things like that. They're easy to lose. That's just, and if, by the way, you're wearing $150,000 earrings, I just don't want the pressure that comes with that. Like you jump into the pool, you jump into the lake, you go skiing, you do anything, you're going to be constantly checking your ears.
Yeah, but, you're a little different than but I wouldn't even buy the earring. That's a non-starter because I wouldn't wear a $150,000 earring. I don't wear earrings, so there you go.
Well, no, but I'm saying
problem solved.
Either would I, but even if you did, you wouldn't. Even if you wore earrings, you wouldn't. I used to have 3, buddy. Can you still see that? Most of the people, you can still see.
You can.
You can still see the holes up there.
If we're sitting at
the
a bar
piercings.
next to each other, boy, aren't we? Cliches. And I look to my right, and you're sitting on my right. Yeah, I could still. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Nope,
piercings.
all 3 of them.
He could still fire them in there if he wanted to.
2 of them I can. I don't think I've done it in years. I had the 3rd hole was hard to keep open where I could pierce it with an earring. But I did it about, I don't know, probably like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, just to see if it would still accept an earring. Yeah, there's some ridiculous pictures out there, I can tell you that.
If you had daughters, I think it would be perfect for you to, start putting earrings back in when they brought dates over, like for prom photos or something like that, or homecoming photos. Then you have a big stud in your ear.
I played the game where I had 3 hoops that were from small to big, and I had the whole. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Ridiculous.
Are you ever going to put earrings back in there?
No.
Are you going to get to an age where you say screw it?
Well, I guess I shouldn't say never, but I don't know. But it was the 80s, man, and that's just what you did. I can still remember the anger on the face of my stepfather. He's an attorney and old school, and we were sitting at the table, and I was trying because he had told all of us, never, you can't do it, can't get earrings, all that stuff. And I'm like, screw you, because I was 16, I could drive to the Tyrone Square Mall and get them if I wanted to.
Boy, that's a den of iniquity, that Tyrone Square Mall.
Yeah, lots of things happen at Tyrone Square Mall. So I did, and I got just the first one. And you have to leave it in. And so I did. I just came to the table, and I kept waiting. Any moment, he's going to recognize it. He was flabbergasted. It was the best. And my mom was like, calm down. And he was very angry, and I thought it was funny. I got to remind myself of the mindset of a 16-year-old for when my kid's 16.
Did you do that specifically to spite him?
No, because I did it because it was what was in. It was what was popular. It's what you did. People had earrings, so you did it. It was a sign of being cool.
Because Bono did it?
I know.
Did Bono have earrings?
Yeah, but
didn't he?
But everybody who played music in the 80s or 70s or early, yes, they all had earrings. That's probably still true.
You didn't put makeup on, did you?
I did not.
You weren't that guy?
I was
eyeliner or anything like that?
No, I didn't go that far. I did. I did try to do other things that were sort of punk related, ripped up clothes and things like that. Yeah, I did all that.
You have gloves?
I never wore gloves.
You never wore gloves?
No,
come on.
I never wore gloves. I'll admit
even the ones with the fingers cut out?
Never did. I always thought those looked dumb. Even if anybody I liked in music or anything else wore those, I wouldn't do it. I was like, those look stupid. What are you doing? No, didn't do it. There were certain fashion things I wouldn't go into.
Did you ever have the leather bracelets with the spikes on them?
No, I never did that. That wasn't like unique to punk either. That was like motorcycle gang stuff and all that. No, I didn't do that. I did for a while have the spikiest green hair you could have. Yeah.
You had spiky green hair?
Yeah, briefly, yeah.
Oh, dear God.
It was beautiful. I'll get you some pictures.
Oh, jeez.
But
that
not
is
nearly
disappointing.
Not nearly as bad as some of. I had a friend, Howard, who had a mohawk, a green and purple mohawk. It was fantastic.
Oh, wait, so it was spiky all over. It wasn't a spiky mohawk?
It wasn't spiky mohawk. It's spiky all over.
Was it like spikes, like big ones, or was it just
you just take the gel and you spike it.
regular
up.
spikes?
Regular spikes. Yeah.
So it wasn't like the
No,
big
no,
ones.
No, it wasn't like that. No.
The conic spikes.
No, good Lord, I've lost it. I didn't mean to go down that road. We're gonna have to do something different. Let's get to football. Yeah, I had green. You will laugh. You already laugh. You've seen pictures of me with long hair, right? You've seen
long
pictures.
hair, but not green spiky Joker hair.
I think there's a picture. It might be my junior prom or something like that. I think I'm wearing like Jim Morrison leather pants with boots, and it's.
Break the fourth wall real quick. Does this Ray Davies track have any
no, Christian.
profanity?
You're good to go, baby.
Okay.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Guarantee you'll get huge below invoice no haggle pricing and save thousands. So listen to this, when you finance through NMAC, all Rogues and Muranos are $4,000 off MSRP. Not one or two, but all, and I've got over 70 to choose from. All Altimas and Maximas are $6,000 off MSRP. I said all, and I've got over 110 to choose from. And all Titans and Armadas in stock are $8,000 off MSRP. Seriously folks, Kraft Nissan is not playing games here. There is no fast-talking disclosure or very vague, ridiculous payment with see dealer for details. These are real and serious dollars off every model. At Kraft Nissan, we do what we say, period. Plus, all new Kraft Nissans come with our free and exclusive lifetime warranty. And that's why Tallahassee is a Nissan town, a Kraft Nissan town. But you better hurry. These prices end Monday, July 31st.
Charlie is all over the place. He's so unorganized. How do I get him to be more responsible with his academics? I've tried everything.
Hi, I'm Lance Davis. Let Engaged Academics help your child learn how to work through these common issues. Visit engagedacademics.org for more information. That's engagedacademics.org.
Wonder what the outrageously energizing experience of Mountain Dew Kickstart is like? Well, it's like a combo of three awesome things. Dew, juice, and caffeine, rebooting your entire personal operating system.
Mountain Dew Kickstart is in position for consumption. All systems cleared for launch. Initiate launch sequence. T-minus 3, 2, 1, mark. Release the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Mountain Dew Kickstart released. Experiencing a charge of Mountain Dew Kickstart now.
Mountain Dew Kickstart operation successful.
You are now off the couch and out exploring the world.
Roger that.
Get charged up for what's coming next anytime, anywhere with Mountain Dew Kickstart. Available in 10 energizing flavors like mango lime, raspberry citrus, midnight grape, and orange citrus. Mountain Dew Kickstart. Fuel with flavor.
RCD Shell knows how to keep you cool and refreshed. All 20-ounce Pepsi and Mountain Dew products are 2 for $2.22. That's right, 2 for $2.22. And 28-ounce Gatorade is buy one, get one free. It's more fun with Pepsi and Dew, so bring on the bubbles with these cool prices at RCD Shell.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show. On 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Kemper Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio on a fine Balls Mick Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Yes, we have talked some in the course of the show about Jimbo Fisher's appearance yesterday on ESPN, on all things ESPN during the car wash. I do think he has gotten a lot better in those things. And I think also he's willing to talk kind of openly and honestly about preparation, about his time with Nick Saban, about the shoes to fill for other guys, and we'll get to all of that. But I wanted to play the clip, played it in the first hour, of Jimbo Fisher talking about preparation, because I think that's really kind of consumed our offseason here, Tom, has been about how do you prep for a game of this magnitude? Is there added pressure, given that it's Alabama, given that it's your mentor, given that it's a guy you coached with and under, whose tendencies you know, just as he knows yours? Can you look too much into it? Can you overanalyze? And a talking point we've had time and again has been, you know, Jimbo has always been a guy that's told me, and anybody who's asked that type of question, you kind of are who you are. Coaches do not deviate too much away from what they know, what their philosophies are, what their concepts are, because it's a hell of a thing to unveil something new against a caliber of opponent like this, and you can spend so much time working something new into what you do to try to confuse and maybe bring about a new wrinkle. And it's not that those things don't exist, but that you would lose sight of the overriding goal here, which is to get really good at what you do and worry about them later. Worry about yourself first. This is Jimbo Fisher talking about preparation for Alabama.
Usually you have 6 days or potentially a few weeks to get ready for a team like this. What's it been like to have 8 months to get ready for a Nick Saban-led team?
Sometimes you got to be careful not to overanalyze and overdo. And you got to remember, that's still a different football team. They're still different guys. And that's one thing that makes openers so unique. You don't know the changes in coaches, players, the new influx of what may be emphasized or what may not be emphasized. Openers are, as great as they are for the fans and everybody else, man, they drive a coach crazy. I mean, it's endless because you end up chasing your tail, as I say sometimes. And you got to worry about, the big thing, worry about yourself. Get yourself right before you can even worry about your opponent. Then we'll game plan the opponent. And we've looked at film, and we have a preliminary plan, and we've looked at things that we know we want to do in camp, and we did in spring, just like they did. I know exactly what they do. So from that standpoint, but more importantly, you got to understand yourself and your team, because teams, no matter what, how many guys you got back, team has a 1-year life expectancy. They change every year, and they each got to develop their own personality and identity, and we're busy doing that with ours.
Yeah, so that's to emphasize that point, which is that you got to get really good at what you do in executing the things that you want to do and the concepts that you run. And I do like that he notes in there, Tom, that we know what they do. I know what they did in spring. I know what they do. And there's nothing that is unknown to these guys anymore, but especially that's true when you understand the overriding philosophy Nick Saban has, which is also what Jimbo does.
But I think one of the unique things about what Coach Fisher runs from an offensive standpoint, and you guys hit on this yesterday on Headlines when there was a question about, can you name a famous example of an offensive-minded head coach changing their philosophies? Unlike a Gus Malzahn type offense where you kind of know what's going to happen, or a Tom Herman style, it's up-tempo, it's now, and then they'll get to the line. If they like it, they run. If they don't, they're going to look to the sidelines and check to the play. Jimbo does so many different things and has done so many things over his time at Florida State, where the Christian Ponder offense looks completely different than the Jameis Winston offense.
That was the point I brought up.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's going to learn what they can do. I understand the overriding point of, we do what we do here at Florida State.
But what we do is varied. It's a pro-style offense. You can do any number of things within that depending on how well your quarterback can execute and how well your offensive line can block it up. That's true of every offense, but I think it's especially true when you have the diversity of offense that Jimbo Fisher brings to the table.
And this is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that, camp is going to be a fact-finding mission because you're getting offensive linemen back that you didn't have in the spring. You're going to have freshmen on the roster, and that's one thing he told you out in Charlotte. Freshmen, we're going to have 20 new guys on the roster here. And, Cam Akers, even though he was an early enrollee, may have something to say, or Amir Rasul might have something to say about how this offense is going to be comprised. So Fisher's going to find out what they're good at. Then he's going to refine and develop what they're already kind of good at from a natural standpoint, and that's how he's going to craft a game plan. That doesn't mean that it's going to look like it did last year. It doesn't mean it's going to look like it did with Christian Ponder. He's got to find out what they are, then he's got to coach up to them, to the ways that they're strong. I mean, DeAndre's got a certain skill set. The receivers have a certain skill set. The running backs have a certain skill set. So he's got to figure out how to make it all work from scratch, and it's not like square peg, round hole.
If the wide receivers take the step forward They're more talented and they're bigger and more dynamic than the group that preceded them. That tells me they're going to throw the football. If that group does what it should do, which is to take that next step. They're uber talented. We've all noted that. We don't think that this is a group lacking a level of dynastic ability. I mean, this is a group that can really make plays, we think. Just body types, explosiveness, elusiveness, quickness. Let's hope that's the case because I think that changes everything. And again, you don't know that. Camp will tell you how much more mature Anuni Murray has gotten. I mean, how seriously he has taken this offseason and what will be a newfound role for him, which is to be a star that leads and is consistent, whether it's his number that's called or not. Has he taken the message? It was the message at the end of the Orange Bowl.
Well, I think, again, the fun part about this offseason, we're always harping on the concerns more than we are, the positives and the potential, because you're facing Alabama right out the gate, and you're facing 3 out of the top 10 defensive lines in the country in September. So, from an offensive standpoint, you have to be right, and you have to be good, and so we're worried about being ready, much the same way the coaching staff is. But if you just for a moment look at what this offense could be, if everybody plays up to their potential, this is as dynamic an offense as we've had since the championship run. Because the quarterback is a dual threat. The receivers have the size to go along with, natural abilities. Like, for example, Kermit Whitfield and Bobo Wilson were reliable, yes, but there are certain things they just can't do.
No.
They're not 6'5".
Yeah,
they're
tough
not
to do
6'3".
at 5'7", sure.
Exactly. Before Dalvin Cook, there are certain things that just couldn't happen within the offense. And you'd like to think with the combination of Rasul and Patrick and Akers in no particular order that you have dynamic ability at the running back position. And then you have, tight ends and a quarterback that you feel pretty good about. So if they all played up to their potential, we could pick our poison from a place of strength. It's an embarrassment of riches situation. So, I think that's the exciting thing about what we're looking at this year and the potential of this offense. But I think the big determining factor is going to be when he sees the offensive line in camp. What are they? Are they better at mauling people, running straight at you? Are they better at pass pro? Are they better at getting out on the perimeter so they're able to pull guards one direction or the other? I mean, what is this offensive line and what is the characteristic of the offensive line? Because I think, even more than the receivers or the running backs or even DeAndre, that's going to help characterize the run-pass splits early in the season.
I did not mean to say dynastic.
I meant dynamic, I'm sure.
I meant dynamic. Pissed me off. It's been bothering me for a minute and a half.
Well, I mean, we could go on a dynastic run here with those receivers.
Well, when I said it, I was like, you meant to say dynamic, dumbass, but you were in the middle of making a good point, so I couldn't correct myself. I just wanted to do that. Every now and then you hear yourself.
Sure.
And you misspoke, and you picture the guy in the car going, what? And you go, okay, normally I don't have to correct this because I talk for a living, and most reasonable people get it. You're going to make a mistake. That one bothered me. That one was just no, we're correcting this now.
Well, if Nooney's great and Tate's great,
then it could turn into a dynastic
run.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it could be. It would be wonderful. Yes, dynamic is what I was trying to say. No, it's been. Hey, listen, I also liked yesterday, and we'll move on. And I got more audio that I want to play from that. We'll do that here in a second when we come back from this break. But you know what, Tom? I liked. I just think again between Charlotte and up there at the car wash. He's gotten better at the process and dealing with the media and handling the questions and the rigors of that. It's an all-day affair up there. It's got to get old. A lot of the same questions. But you have to be engaged and you have to be focused and you have to act like each one is new and that you're speaking to them specifically. And that will reward. There will be rewarding results of that because then the questions get better because I know as somebody who does interviews that when the person engages you, you want to be better for them.
It does seem like when he's discussing these, grander talking points of coaching that he's bringing up more universal inclusive truths than he did in the beginning. It was more it was more about the task in front of him.
Well, I think
for a long time
Ira brought up a great point yesterday, and for people who did hear headlines, they heard it. But if you didn't, he talked about how this is probably where Jimbo would have been in terms of comfort level in dealing with the press, answering questions, slowing down, kind of getting his point across a little bit more succinctly. Had the Jameis Winston controversies and media coverage not existed. I think it stunted what he could become as a head coach, that totality that you're talking about, the big picture stuff. He had to hunker down, protect his guy, protect his program. And I think without question what's developed after you see the unfair nature of the way that thing was reported and took off, New York Times, et cetera, was an obvious mistrust of all things media. So it's taken an extra couple of years for him to reach this point to where he's settled back down because things have evened out. And I think he's probably at least spoken to a little bit more fairly than he had been in the past. The way he's viewed is different. And you can sense that when you walk into a room. You can sense that when you go to the ACC meetings. You can sense that when you talk to national and regional media. I think he knows that now. I think that's in the rearview mirror, and he's moved forward. It's also helped that Jameis has gone on to have a great career so far, has been rock solid in the community. He's kind of vindicated to some extent for sticking by his guy, as he should have. But I think that's helped lessen the intensity with which these conversations occur, and he's lowered his guard some.
Well, okay. Do I think everything, 100% of what a coach says in a media interview is actually the way they carry out their day-to-day operations?
No, God knows. On the football field, they're all screaming their head off and angry.
Yes, they are. But it seems like he's at least willing to openly discuss the greater idea of motivation and how some guys need a kick in the pants and other guys need an arm around the shoulder, and knowing the balance, when to pull, when to push kind of a thing.
The E.J. Manuel lesson, man.
Yeah, but he's willing to discuss that in such a way now that it gives me hope that actually on the practice field, maybe it resonates more with him. As
that one might depend on the day, right? That one might depend on the day. Sure.
There's no doubt, but I was even listening today to some of the stuff, in his post-spring press conference, and he was talking about the old players coming back and talking about Mickey Andrews and the gassers that they used to run, and we played that audio, the day after the spring game, the Monday after. But he says, some days I walk off the field and I feel bad about the way I lied into guys. Now that I heard some of these old stories, I don't feel as bad, but I still kind of feel bad.
Well,
it's just he's openly willing to talk about motivating players in a way that never existed his first couple of years, and that to me exudes confidence. He believes in what he's doing, and he feels assured.
Yes, and it does exude confidence to be able to show willingness to admit that occasionally you might go and cross the line, or maybe you do things to upset players and you realize that maybe it was unnecessary, and you're willing to admit to that or cop to that. But at the same time, I don't want him to change too much in his approach with quarterbacks. I think he did learn a very valuable lesson with E.J. Manuel. But and we're not going to get into that now, but I really think that was a sophisticated, interesting thing, and we've talked about that dynamic before. But, he showed some of this on Showtime's series last year, and I didn't like that because I didn't think that was as genuine as the comments you're alluding to that he had at the end of spring. I think those were for the camera. I really think it was a disastrous thing a year ago. The more I look back on that situation.
You're talking about when he'd be talking to Francois on the practice field. He says, "You know why I did that,
right? I was
right?
a little too hard on you there, and I've got to understand." Nah, don't do that. That's not who you are. And listen, he's a former quarterback, and he's an offensive coordinator, and he's a play caller, and he is a hard coach, and he admits that. Some players respond to that, some don't. Have your good cop, bad cop, do it. Be who you are. Steve Spurrier used to yank his starting quarterback every week. It's just who he was. And you know what? They were really successful because he just followed a path that he believed in. That was what he did. And not everybody thought that was the right move. Well, but when they're winning SEC championships and a national title, it works. So I don't want him to change too much. I do like the perspective, though, that you're talking about. Just gleaning the perspective, understanding that there's nuance to all of this.
Well, relating back to what, you're talking about with preparation, over preparation, doing what you do. These types of talking points that he's willing to say on, the set in Bristol,
right,
give me hope. They give me hope that when it comes to implementing a game plan, that he's willing to not play the stubborn card and say, this is what we do well. I know I may not like it as much in the moment, but looking back over the years, even last year the Orange Bowl, he liked to run DeAndre in key situations, and certainly he did in a number of games last year.
At the end of the Miami game.
Yes. Yeah, to go get the first down, to go win the football game. And if you look at it, there's actually a play, the drive before, when Miami returns the punt, they nearly score, and we get the tackle from Logan. He calls this run, this counter run with his quarterback, that if we get one block, I don't mean to sound like him, but
you do.
It might be
it's
a
out
touchdown.
the gate. It's out the gate. Just say it.
It's out the gate. But that's what it speaks to is there are moments that maybe we don't remember in the immediate term.
Sure.
That he's willing to go outside what we think of as Jimbo Fisher 101 and call a game to go win a game. And if he's willing to talk like this openly with the media, it gives me hope that he's willing to do that in this most critical first month of the season.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Get my number. When have you heard that? So the rest is gravy. Gravy that Kraft Nissan is passing on to you. And I guarantee you'll get huge below invoice, no haggle pricing and save thousands. So listen to this. When you finance through NMAC, all Rogues and Muranos are $4,000 off MSRP. Not one or two, but all. And I've got over 70 to choose from. All Altimas and Maximas are $6,000 off MSRP. I said all, and I've got over 110 to choose from. And all Titans and Armadas in stock are $8,000 off MSRP. Seriously, folks, Kraft Nissan is not playing games here. There is no fast-talking disclosure or very vague, ridiculous payment with see dealer for details. These are real and serious dollars off every model. At Kraft Nissan, we do what we say, period. Plus, all new Kraft Nissans come with our free and exclusive lifetime warranty. And that's why Tallahassee is a Nissan town, a Kraft Nissan town. But you better hurry. These prices end Monday, July 31st.
How's your car's air conditioner working? Could be better? Take it to Auto Super Service Center today for a comprehensive air conditioner service. It's just $49.99. Yep, just $49.99. Since 1980, Tallahassee's trusted name for auto repairs, service, and low prices has been Auto Super Service Center. There are 5 Tallahassee area Auto Super Service Center locations. Find the one nearest you at AutoSuperServiceCenter.com and call for an appointment. $49.99 air conditioner service special is a limited time offer, so call today.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
With what you need to know, this is Adrian Lawrence. Some deals are getting done on the gridiron. The NFL Network reports that the Vikings signed defensive end Everson Griffin to a 4-year extension. Only 4 players have more sacks than Griffin since the start of the 2014 season. To the AFC North, hoping to improve their depth at running back, the Ravens re-signed Bobby Rainey today. That's what ESPN's Adam Schefter reports. Rainey helps fill in during the absence of Kenneth Dixon, who just had surgery on a torn meniscus and is 50-50 on returning this season. To Carolina, no deal quite yet for Panthers linebacker Thomas Davis, who said negotiations for an extension are ongoing. Also in the NFC South, Falcons tackle Dontari Poe's second incentive weigh-in is today. If he's 330 pounds or less, Poe will pocket $125,000. The Falcons will pay him up to $500,000 in bonuses if he can meet the 4 weigh-ins. And in tennis, the world's number 4 men's player, Novak Djokovic, well, he's going to miss the rest of the season due to an injured right elbow. That means the Joker's pulling out of the U.S. Open, ending his 51 Grand Slam tournament streak.
Gentlemen, JCPenney is celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday, save with amazing spotlight deals at Black Friday prices. Like up to 60% off brands like Stafford, J4R, Foundry, and more, including big and tall sizes. That's getting your penny's worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. That wasn't all Jimbo Fisher had to say up in Bristol. Here is a conversation he had on the set as well. And Jay Harris, who was Kevin Nagande, was that?
Kevin Nagande, I think, asked him this follow-up. Yeah.
And here's this. This is him talking about Saban, I do believe, and the kind of the good times they had there.
You mentioned you know what the opponent's going to do because you have a history, of course, with Nick Saban. You go back to your LSU days with him and understanding what he's doing and the thought process. Our guy, Marcus Spears, told us that you guys would go back and forth, too. Share the story that stands out with you and Nick going back, engaging back and forth during your LSU days.
There was a bunch of it. It was very competitive, but it was also, I understood as an assistant, I never wanted to. The head coach, as a head coach, you got to have a plan, and things are done well, and you got to understand that. And we had a great relationship. That's one of the things I did learn from him. It was tremendous. But you had great players, man. We developed that thing from we weren't very good when we got there. Then we won an SEC title. Then we won a national title. And had a lot of guys draft Marcus. I recruited Marcus. I was one who put him and Michael Clayton and those guys, that whole crew of guys that came in that class. It was a special class. Andrew Whitworth, they're still playing. Some of those guys are still playing. It was amazing. But I remember one day, we were in an inside drill like the first or second day. And they brought some double A-gap blitz. We're trying to line up in the base things, and he hits us, and he bumped me. Hey, like that, boy. Man, I was on our side. You know what I mean? I'm trying on that side. So I'm sitting there thinking the whole practice, I got to get him one time, you know. Yeah. So and like Marcus said, we'll pull out the old stick and draw something in the dirt one time for him that just ain't lined up in right before. They did it at the end of practice. We wouldn't do it at the beginning of practice because you have to listen to it the whole practice.
Oh, yeah.
And then you had to create a big play on him and let you know, hey, we can come back on the other side.
Did you do it?
Oh,
Did you
yeah, we would do that occasionally.
What was his reaction?
Just roll over and jump on you. And I understand, yes, sir. It was right, but you had to get your pride back.
I love the measured tones and the way that he's, but I was careful about when I would do it. You know, that's, well, listen, you get a sense, too, that he had immense respect for Nick Saban to the point where he wasn't going to show up as boss, even if his boss just showed him up because that's his boss. It was okay, all right, I got to wear that one, do I? All right. Maybe at the end of practice, I'll give you a little something, which is great. And I bet you anything, knowing the way that competitive people are, Saban appreciated that. He might not have said it, but I bet he appreciated the getting your pride back moment. And he also appreciated that they waited to the end of practice to do it because it would have pissed him off had he been working on something and Jimbo decided, well, we're not going to let that sit.
Right, yeah, the insubordination play.
Right. Yeah.
He says it, there's reverence in his voice even now. It's almost like he transported in time from assistant to where he is now. Yeah. Well,
he was right. The
one thing about the head coach is, he's got a plan, so you got to stick to that plan.
Yeah, he's decided he's going to do things.
And now we go willy-nilly, it might be time to have a little fun. But that's there's a lot to unpack in there about, what Jimbo believes as a head coach, what his code is as a man, as an employee, as a boss. There's a ton in there.
Sounds a lot along the lines of what we'd like. I think whether you're the boss or the employee, I think it's what you would expect. There's a fair amount of competitiveness and making each other better and reverence and time and place and understanding when and how and what's at stake and your role in the bigger operation. I mean, I'm sure he was. Saban has, let's just put it out there because we're dissecting all things Florida State, Alabama. We have been for weeks and will be for weeks more until this game finally happens. Saban has said repeatedly the best offensive coordinator that he's ever had is Jimbo Fisher. And for lack of a better term, it almost sounds like he thinks he's the best assistant coach he ever had. I mean, he has said enough things that you can tell, while there is reverence from Jimbo Fisher towards his mentor, Nick Saban, Saban appreciated, respects, and really enjoyed his time with Jimbo Fisher.
Because there were certain things that Fisher wouldn't stand for, in a sense. Okay, you got me. You can bump me in the arm, and you can say what you think about that.
Right.
And I'll say, all right, listen.
There'll be a time.
And I'm going to come get you. I'm going to get you now.
But knowing when that time is one of the most important parts, right? Is that, okay, well, you're the head man. I got that. And I can use this opportunity to better myself and create a job for myself and a career for myself. But we're competitors, too, so I'm going to need to get you back, but I'll just know when.
Well, take away the abrupt departure from Tallahassee aside, I found it interesting that when Jimbo was talking to Ira, Corey, Chris Nee, everybody up in Charlotte, we played some of the audio from the breakout a week ago, and the interview process in East Lansing. Jimbo
goes out there to sit down in his living room and
he leaves Cincinnati. Jimbo does to interview the job and for the job with LSU, but Nick's still in East Lansing, so he's sitting down, and Jimbo gets the call. He gets the offer of the job after one sit down with Nick.
Right.
And what you can gather from Jimbo's side of it is that the two respected each other immensely, and their attention to detail, their knowledge of the game. Jimbo says
the history of the game and everything. It was a lot like my dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Jimbo says my first impression was he is very knowledgeable of Saban. He's quite knowledgeable. So we know how Jimbo is. He's an encyclopedia of the sport.
Right.
So clearly they went back and forth, and it reminds me of the time that he looked back on the hiring of Jeremy Pruitt, and he talked about how they went on the board together. He says, "All right, well, what if I do this?" And Pruitt says, "Well, I'll do that." "Well, what if you do this?" And they're playing chess back and forth. Yeah. There's an appreciation for the other when somebody is paying attention to details and has an idea. They're not a subordinate to the point of, well, you're right.
No, you don't want that. You hire people whom you respect because you want their opinion and you need their feedback, and it has to be unabashed. It has to be have the ability to speak honestly, openly, clearly, succinctly to you, and you can disagree with them and tell them, "Nope, I don't want to do it that way." Now then they have to stand down. But you don't want them to hold back their thoughts. That can never happen.
But I think the reputation of Saban and Fisher is that they are like tyrants at times.
Oh, right. And I think that's changed a little bit over time. At least it has for me in understanding. I said 2 years ago to you on the air, I think, we probably have it wrong on Nick Saban. I think all these people who think Nick Saban's this tyrant to work for, difficult and all that, no, I don't think that's true. Here's and I know somebody who does work for him. And it's a guy with Florida State ties that I used to work with here, not in radio, but anyhow, the point would be that guy has said, is he demanding? 100%. I mean, really demanding to the point where sometimes it can be very difficult. You can say to yourself when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go into work, knowing he's going to already be there when you get there, and he'll stay there after you've left. Come on, man. Can I have a day? I need a day because I've got this other thing called a life. I've got a wife and kids, and I need a day. And he can be very difficult. He can maybe not be as understanding of that and say, well, you also have a job in which you're paid handsomely, and I'm asking you to do this, and if you can't, somebody will. That's a tough answer, man. And you either have to decide you can deal with that or you can't, but he is not going to waver. That said, if you do what you're tasked the responsibility to do, and you do it well, and you show professionalism and excellence, and you're goal-oriented, and you do all these things, well, the rewards are bountiful as well. I mean, I know for a fact Nick gives staff members in and around that athletic program trips and all kinds of things for when it is time to decompress, and he pays for it and does all that.
Well, and again, I don't think he calls it – we're unpacking little moments that we get, these little slivers, to make grand sweeping generalizations about people, but what the hell, why not try? I don't think he calls the double A gap blitz in practice if he doesn't think Jimbo can handle it and if he doesn't respect Jimbo Fisher, the coach.
Right.
I don't think he bumps him on the arm and says, "What do you think of that?" and laughs,
Oh, without question. And I also think it was to see how Jimbo would react.
Sure.
It's sort of let me give him a little something here. And maybe a couple plays had gone well for the offense, and he wants him to know, well, that's not what I would call if this were a game.
Sure, but it's a sign of respect, though.
Sure,
I mean, that if you don't think somebody's capable, then you don't even give them the time of day to test them like that.
Let's play some more of the audio real quick here. This is the last piece we have. Again, Fisher talking about Alabama, talking about preparation, talking about his team, talking about Saban.
Yeah, and like the Dalvin Cook and DeMarcus Walker being
shoes
gone.
To fill, man. Shoes to fill. And the beauty of coaching at a place like Florida State, where this is kind of par for the course.
They're always like that at Florida State. Yeah. Like I said, whoever was going to replace Deion, who was going to replace Terrell Buckley, who was going to replace Leroy Butler, Lawrence Dawsey, Charlie Ward, Warwick Dunn. I mean, you get Peter Warwick. I mean, but that's one of the great things about being at Florida State. What those guys do, they say, well, their records are broken, they're better. Well, they set a standard. and then people shoot for it. And eventually they're going to be broken. And that's the great thing about Florida State. We've got such great history, such great players, and they set that bar so high. You know, the Jameis Winstons of the world, the Charlie Wards of the world, all those guys. And then the next guy can push up, but he would have never gotten there if those guys hadn't have been there. And so I think the interesting thing for me, it's not whose shoes to fill, it's who's competitive enough to go try and fill them. That's going to be very interesting.
And that gets us to your quarterback, because Dalvin Cook, of course, Travis Rudolph, those weapons are gone, that experience there. You have the talent, it's just not the experience there on the outside. What are your expectations for DeAndre Francois?
I think very good. And the thing outside, I think the emergence of Nooney and Auden Tate the last half of the year, you know, created so many big plays for us. So we feel very comfortable with some young, talented guys, with Keith Gavin and some other guys coming in that regard, great tight end in Izzo. And we still got 4 of the 5 linemen back. But what I've watched him grow at, which is so fun to me, quarterbacking is what's done behind the scenes off the field. You know what I'm saying? There's so much of that in leadership and team chemistry. And, you know, let's go out here in the summer and let's work for another hour, hour and a half on these 3 routes. Hey, guys, come on. I got to work with the backs. I got to work with the tight ends, the linemen, our snaps. We got to get shotgun snaps, whatever they do. But also, which teammate, all right, he's got to walk over on the side after one of us coaches has gotten on him, pat him on the butt and say, hey, he did me the same way. Just do this, this, and this. Or sometimes he's got to get on a guy. Or he's got to meet with him off the field and do those things. And I think that's where he's really grown in his chemistry of the team and the ownership that I talked about, of taking ownership of the team and our players, because Derwin and those guys do it we got quite a few guys are doing it on defense, some guys on offense are doing it, but I see his growth in that regard. And to me, quarterbacking is so much, it's getting those other players on the field that they'll die for you. These guys, he's our commander in chief. We're going to make sure he's protected. We're going to run. We're going to do that ball, we're going to catch it for him. We're going to break that extra run. And I think he earned that respect last year by how he played, the toughness he played with, the competitiveness. And now I think he sees him, they're seeing him a different way, and he's understanding how to get them to understand how he thinks now.
Great stuff from Jimbo Fisher yesterday at the car wash up in Bristol, ESPN. We'll come back and react to that briefly and also give you probables. Wrapping it up momentarily. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Stop in at AAA Transmission and ask for owner Tim Pridgeon, servicing Tallahassee for over 30 years. AAA Transmission, 1023 North Monroe Street, or call them at 222-2532.
Cornerstone and DeWalt FlexVolt. Power of corded, freedom of cordless. Buy any of the following DeWalt T1 FlexVolt kits for only $2.99. 60-volt max grinder kit with battery pack, 60-volt brushless recip saw kit, or 60-volt circular saw with brake kit. And add one FlexVolt 60-volt battery pack for free. A $149 value and a Cornerstone-only exclusive. Check out the sound of silence. Almost. Power of gas without noise and fumes. Cornerstone Tool and Fastener. Your DeWalt FlexVolt Center. 1110 Stuckey Ave and 3269 Crawfordville Highway. Tallahassee location open Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon.
Tallahassee loves the corner pocket as much as a crystal ball winning catch.
He's looking, he lost it to the end zone. It's Benjamin! Touchdown! With 13 seconds left.
The 97.9 ESPN radio special is a must-have every Monday and Wednesday at the corner pocket. 10 mouth-watering wings, a fresh side of fries, and a chilled domestic pint of beer are just $9.79 all day long. Be sure and try the fish blend of sauces, a true wing eater's favorite. The Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
He's gone!
Home of Trivia Tuesday, Beer Bingo Thursday, and the daily $7.99 lunch special.
For better gas mileage and a longer-lasting engine, change your vehicle's oil at Superlube every 3 months or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. For good times and family fun, Tallahassee heads to the Fun Station. And right now, when you change your oil at Superlube, you'll get a $15 Fun Station gift card. You don't need an appointment. You'll be in and out in no time. And with 19 Tallahassee area Superlubes, there's probably one right around the corner right now.
How I love to Superlube my car, yes sir.
The 14th annual Kingfish Shootout is right around the corner, August 5th and 6th. With total payouts equaling over $20,000, Kingfish prizes range from 1st through 10th place, and Spanish mackerel prizes range from 1st through 3rd place. All profits go to the Leukemia Research Foundation. More than $865,000 has been donated in the past 13 years. If interested, go to the website and click Tournaments and follow the rules. You can register and pay online at the same time. Sea Quarters Marina, 501 St. James Avenue, Highway 98 Carabel, online at seaquartersmarina.com or call them 850-697-8400.
You're listening to the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Wrapping it up, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. That was good. It's fun listening to that stuff. Kind of gets the juices flowing all the more. Well, I don't think there's any question that DeAndre Francois is as respected as they come in that locker room. You couldn't take the beating that he took a year ago and have that witnessed game in and game out, come back from injury, out from under the injury tent, pick yourself up off the mat. I think the big thing, too, is that it's not just that he goes back into games. When he goes back into games, invariably he makes a big play while hurt or hurting. And that's everything, right? You know, the hanging in there against Ole Miss at the end and making big throws at the end of the half in which we really looked terrible and he's had to take shot after shot, and it results in a touchdown. The throw late against Michigan after he had a really costly interception, returned for a touchdown, and really the game had kind of gotten away from Florida State, and it looked like all momentum was lost and the Noles were going to lose that game, and then he makes some big plays there and makes that throw, and Nooney makes the catch. He's done that a lot, and a lot for a kid who's only been starting for 1 year.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part, again, is you look at redshirt freshmen, and you don't want to fall into the trap of the last redshirt freshman to start here, prior to Francois.
He's not going to be that.
But to me, I think last year, and this is a sign of immaturity and somebody who's growing on the job, body language wasn't always great. I think it went up and it went down, and it mirrored, the score at times. And to me, one thing I'm looking for this year is how's his body language when things aren't so good, and how are the interactions with the skill position players, the offensive line when those times aren't good? Is he an uplifter? You don't have to be just like Jameis. You can rally people by being demonstrative too.
He never really got on the offensive line as much as he did other guys, I think, last year at times. And also just overall body language. You're right. That is something. Quarterback, by the way, we never really talk about that. The best ones, they just don't. Maybe in the NFL, where you're expected to be a pro, a guy like Brady will yell at a player.
He'll dress somebody down.
Yeah,
in a heartbeat.
in the pros, it's different. In college, you really can't do that.
No, and Jameis was so great at uplifting those around him, and he
still
does it in the pros.
Still does it in the pros, yeah.
I forget what game clip it was, but they have him mic'd, and one of the receivers asked him, he said, "Man, we're look where we are. We're playing on Sundays, man.
Well,
Isn't
don't
this
you
where
think
you want to be?"
That's the most interesting part? I'll pivot for a second before we go to probables. Don't you think that's going to be the most interesting part of Hard Knocks? Because every great quarterback and every dominant quarterback who's gone on to be a multi-time Pro Bowler and champion of some sort, whatever it might be, I think they have a whole bunch of a-hole in them. I think they have a whole lot of, listen to this guy. If you were at the right practice or they were mic'd up for the right game, you'd hear some things that made you think, woo, he just emasculated that man in front of his teammates. I think that exists in all of them. I'm thinking back to the Elways and the Montanas and the Marinos, and obviously Tom Brady does it. You look around the league, I think almost all those guys have it, and I guarantee you I think Jameis Winston has it at practice. He's going into year 3. You're going to start to see it come out because he's accomplished something now. He's taken a franchise that has done nothing. He got him back to having a winning record. He has thrown for over 4,000 yards in consecutive seasons. Some of his numbers surpass that of the all-time greats for his age in short time in the league. He may now feel like he has ownership of that team in a way that he wasn't so sure about before, to be able to undress a player in practice. I wonder, does that happen? And I think Hard Knocks could reveal some of that.
In a way, I hope it does. Absolutely. I hope he has a little bit of that in him because...
Well, yeah, if you're not doing what you need to be doing.
Well, and yes.
And the quarterback has to tell you that.
Yeah, we hear about he's a leader, but sometimes you have to, remind people that you're a leader. And I think that's what Jimbo was hitting on in that long-form clip is he's learning. DeAndre is about, what guys respond to this.
Consistency, yeah.
Yeah, you hear the term coach on the field. Usually that means the quarterback's not very good, but he doesn't lose you games. But
or he's a wide receiver.
It could be, too. But you have to be a bit of a coach on the field by default to be a quarterback. You got to understand, that Kelvin Benjamin needs the ball in the first quarter of the game.
Yeah, or he's going to shut down.
Right, yeah. And hopefully DeAndre learns whatever that is for this particular group.
Cue it up, my friend. It is time to knock it out. A little probables action.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Stros, Phillies, Mike fires Aaron Nola. Of course Aaron Nola's pitching. I think he always is. Brewers, Nationals, Jimmy Nelson, Gio Gonzalez. We got A's, Blue Jays, Paul Blackburn, and Marco Estrada. Royals, Tigers, Ian Kennedy, Anibal Sanchez going for Detroit. Angels, Indians, Ricky Nolasco, who got pummeled in his last start. Pitches for the Angels. Carlos Carrasco will pitch for Cleveland.
That's because he's still pitching in the bigs.
Yes, at 58 years old. Actually, he's 34, if you were wondering. That's true. Marlins, Rangers, Jose Urena, and Yu Darvish. Cubs, White Sox, Jake Arrieta, James Shields. We got Rockies, Cardinals, Jeff Hoffman, who also got pummeled his last start. Against the Pirates, he gave up 7 runs on 9 hits in a whopping 3 innings. I had told a friend of mine, go ahead and start Hoffman. The Pirates don't hit real well. Sorry. Carlos Martinez goes for the Cardinals. Twins, Dodgers, Irvin Santana, Brock Stewart. Brock Stewart sounds like an illegitimate name. They just made that up. He's either in porn or he's in something else, but Brock Stewart, come on now. Mets, Padres, Steven Matz, and Mr. Chacin going for the Padres. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind.
Should be noted that tonight on Sirius XM, Channel 92 or 208, Beyond the Tips, Hank Leviota is going to join us. He just won there in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's going to join us on the program.
He went low. He went in the minus 20s.
Yeah, he did go low. And listen to this. The funny thing about that is Trey and I were talking about it today. By the way, that's on at 9 o'clock if you have Sirius XM. You can listen in. He had agreed to be on the show last week when we had to do alternative plans. This is true now. This is getting to be weird. The guys that have agreed to come on with us, Jonas Blix came on with us the week before he won. We've had, in addition, Daniel Berger came on with us the week before he won. We've had coaches from other programs whose team went out and won the national title. We had Oklahoma's coach on that went and won the national title. We had, not just that, we obviously had Brooks Koepka on before he won. So the fact that he just agreed to be on the show last week, we think it's just if you say yes to that show, you're about to do good things.
You should have Brooks on in about 2 weeks'
yes,
time.
in about 2 weeks' time. You do it again. All right, Front Row's up next. Stay tuned for that. Great work, Tom. Great work, Matthew. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Be well, everybody.